Canada is suspending the rollout of one of the vaccines, I don't know which one, over fears about blood clots. So we're going to get into the specifics on that story. I want to be very careful with this because, we want to make sure we're getting this data, these stories accurate. But in the bigger picture, the reason this is important is that the Biden administration is reportedly planning a rollout of a national COVID vaccine passport, or just a general vaccine passport, I guess, because I'm willing to bet this app is going to include all of the vaccinations you've gotten, not just COVID. We'll see. In New York, they already have this, and a lot of people are angry, rightly so, because even CNN compared it to Nazis demanding you show your papers. No joke. Fareed Zakaria actually showed a scene where a guy was like, give me your papers. And then he is like, I don't have them. And then the cops are coming or whatever. That's pretty intense when even CNN is bringing up that argument. But they had this ethical dilemma about whether or not vaccine passports are legit. And so we're going to get into all of the deep philosophical and ethical questions around this. And I think it's fair to say when you've got countries that are, issuing these warnings, when people with food allergies aren't supposed to get it, when pregnant women aren't supposed to get it, how are you going to roll out mandatory vaccines when you're also telling people why they shouldn't get it, or certain countries are putting in restrictions? That seems absolutely just nuts to me. But we'll get into all this. We've got some other stories. There's a school, apparently it's in Virginia, right?
Yeah. Where
apparently these teachers are getting doxxed because they oppose critical race theory. And it's people in the school who are it's a crazy story. I mean, the level of indoctrination from critical race theory is just getting nuts. Even Sesame Street now is coming outright against Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision, which is kind of shocking to me. So we'll get into it. Joining us today, of course, is Cassandra Fairbanks.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Quick intro, just maybe a couple seconds.
I write for Gateway Pundit, irritate people on Twitter constantly. I don't know. That's about it.
There you go. We got Ian Chillum.
What's up, everybody? Ian Crossland over here. Good to see you. Good to see you,
then
Cassandra.
me in the corner pushing buttons. We're going to have a great night tonight.
That's right. And we have an amazing sponsor tonight. Everybody, let's give a shout out to POCKETNET.APP. In the description below, you will see the link to POCKETNET, a fully decentralized social media platform. They say, no corporation, open source, nobody can take your subscribers away. All advertising revenue goes directly to you as content creator. It is owned and self-policed by users like you. And these are all really, really smart things. One of the coolest things about this, they mention that it is totally decentralized. There's no central authority or corporation. The platform is run by equal nodes on a blockchain. All revenue is split between node operators and content creators. Node operators stake Pocketcoin in order to mint blocks with rewards and transaction fees. Half of rewards in each block go to content creators based on ratings their content gathers from users. The reason why I'm stoked to have POCKETNET as a sponsor is because we've often talked about the need for decentralizing social media. And it's one of the things we really want to implement too with timcast.com. We want to incorporate some way that there can be a decentralized ability for individuals to comment, speak their minds, have their opinions, and no one can ban them. I think the reality of social media is that you need to put the individuals in control of what they see. Now, Twitter does this. You can block people, but for some reason, there's an obsession with manipulating and controlling that flow of information, probably, in my opinion, for political gain. With a system like POCKETNET, totally decentralized, there is no boss. There's no one who could take that power. So it's pretty cool. So special shout out and thank you to POCKETNET for sponsoring the show. Their link is in the description below. You can go to POCKETNET.APP and check it out. And also, don't forget, go to timcast.com and become a member to get access to exclusive members-only segments where we talk with our guests about a bunch of, things YouTube usually doesn't want us to, or sometimes we just kind of weird with it. We talk about like DMT and God. And recently we had Jeremy from The Quartering. We had Aaron Berg. We had Jody Shaw. We had Kurt Schlichter, Jack Murphy, comedian Chrissy Mayer. So make sure you go to timcast.com, become a member, because this is how you support the show. And we're going to be rolling out a ton of amazing new content. I'm actually planning on hiring a news editor. We're going to be hiring some writers. We're going to start making articles. And we're even thinking about doing TV shows, movies, short films, and just going absolutely nuts with it. So again, go to timcast.com, become a member. And I also want to give a quick mention for people who are curious about the specifics on what happened with Friday's show and being canceled. And there's no big conspiracy. There's no big controversy. Quite literally, there was some miscommunication. We had Jeremy from The Quartering. Love him. He's an awesome dude. We were going to have him on for 2 nights in a row. But I guess at some point, someone gave him the wrong time to show up. And because we had already done a show with him, we kind of like exhaust a lot of what we want to talk about and a lot of ideas. We needed to do pre-production, and I guess Jeremy was given the wrong time, so that's totally on us. We were the ones who told him where and when to be up here and be ready to go. And then by the time we were getting set up to go, we had like only a few minutes to actually launch, and I was like, dude, I don't want to launch a show and be like, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're talking about. So maybe it just doesn't make sense and it's our fault. And so I want to apologize to Jeremy for that happening. It's totally our fault. That's all I can really say about it. But let's jump into the first story about Fox. I'm sorry. The Biden administration working with, it's from Fox Business, the Biden administration working with industry to develop COVID-19 passports as vaccinations progress. Passports offer a glimpse of a future that many are longing for after months of COVID-19 restrictions. I really love that Fox is saying that people are longing for vaccine passports. Aren't you guys? Because Conjure, Ian, don't you want to be able to have an app where they can know everything about you and you scan it if you want to go shopping?
I'm really bummed that it's an app and not paper. Makes things a lot more difficult.
Show me your papers.
No, they're saying it will also be paper.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
I think COVID passports. Okay, hold on.
This is like the social credit score in China.
Right. Well, so they implemented a similar system. I'll just break it down very simply for those that don't know what it is. You will have an app on your phone. You will put in all your private information. And then when you get vaccinated, it will have that information. If you go to the store or you go to a theater or you go to an airline, they'll have an app. It'll be like, you must scan it to prove you've gotten your vaccinations. I think COVID is just the beginning. How long until they're like, oh, if you want to go to the store, have you gotten, your Hep shot or something like that, or your tetanus shot? Have you gotten your flu shot? Well, you got to have that. And with the ease of an app like this, the vaccine passport, they're calling it, then, Walmart or whoever else can be like, you know what? Everybody should get flu shots. End of story. So you better carry around your papers, right?
Yeah, I don't have a phone. I don't carry paperwork around with me. Get off my back.
I'm
Then you
just
can't go
wondering
shopping.
how long it's going to take for a black market for them to spring up on it.
Dude,
there's fake IDs.
Dude,
there's
it's so
Yeah, I feel like people are going to
obvious.
have hacked apps.
Yeah.
Like people are just going to jailbreak their phones and then make their own apps.
medical tracking is terrifying.
I mean, if they make it so you can't do anything without it, people are going to find a way to get it, even if they don't actually want to get the vaccine, or if they can't.
Think about how crazy that's going to be, though. Like, you can't go to Walmart unless you have an app you can scan on the way in. So what about somebody who doesn't own a phone, right? Let's say you're really, really poor. You can't even get any kind of smartphone. Even though there's some pretty cheap ones, you can't get it. And then you got to go to a place to issue a vaccine passport from a certain place on a card. They say that voter ID is racist because poor people and minorities struggle to go to the DMV. And I'm like, dude, the DMV's been around for literally ever. Everybody can ask someone, yo, where's the DMV at? If you went outside right now and walked up to a random person and said, hey, where can I get a vaccine? They're going to be like, I don't know. So you think poor people and these people you believe are underprivileged are going to have an easy time figuring out how to navigate the system? Nah, they're creating some kind of like caste system.
This is like when polio, the vaccine came, people wanted that vaccine because polio is crippling people. It was terrifying. It was deadly. It was devastating. So people wanted it. You didn't have to force them to get it and track to make sure they got it. Like, people were just getting it because they needed it. They wanted it. This vaccine, this thing has a 99.97% recovery rate, this COVID thing. I don't think a vaccine is necessary, especially ones that are accessing blood clots.
For
in
older
people's-
people.
Maybe for older people.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
Lots of things
it's still so early in the process that they rushed it out in like 6 months. This vaccine's
short
been
time.
out.
I'm not super opposed to the rushing process. I'm concerned about the non-approval process. You know what I mean?
That as well, yeah.
Yeah, so the FDA hasn't approved this yet.
Yeah, both of those things concern me. I think that the rush is scary. I mean, we don't know what the lasting effects of any of this stuff will be. We don't even know what the lasting effects of COVID will be. So just all of it, the rush, the lack of, testing and approval, it freaks me out. And I'm very pro-vaccines. I'm not like anti-vax at all. I just think that people are rushing into this stuff.
Yes, but I was reading about the approval process from the FDA. Did you know it's something like 6 months to get legitimate hard FDA approval?
Yeah.
So it's probably just going to be approved soon. So that's why a lot of people are like, well, it's an emergency use authorization. I think that matters because now you got Canada talking about blood clots or whatever. Mm-hmm. It definitely matters. But I'd like to see FDA approval. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's unreasonable for me to be like, yo, I don't think it's fair. New York's already rolling out the passports. Here's the bigger problem. It's not the government doing it. Biden's got a plan. Biden's working with industry. But they can't force anybody to do anything. What's going to happen is you're not going to be able to board a plane. You're not going to be able to buy a ticket from Ticketmaster or whatever. It's going to be social enforcement in the private sector. That's going to make all this happen. Like masks, for instance. What happened in Texas when they were like, yo, we're done with this? There was like some chain of grocery stores, something that said, nope, you still got to do it. I think Walmart was like, nope, you still got to wear masks.
Their infection rates are going way down though right
41%.
now.
Yep.
Yeah. So everything is just crazy. It's like, I don't know. I live in the woods up on a mountain. I interact with like 4 people a week.
Perfect.
Like I'm just like, I don't really feel like I need anything like this. Like we're fine. We're up in the mountain. You guys can do your things in the city.
But so what about in cities though? What if they said vaccine passports only in the city and not in the mountains?
I mean, I don't care. I don't want to go to cities. I hate going to cities. So I'll stay up on the mountain. You guys can get your papers down there.
When did you used to live in big cities?
Yeah, I hate them.
What happened?
So I haven't been back to a city since I moved to West Virginia, or I hadn't until last week because I had to take my cat to an emergency vet and it was a whole thing. But he had to go get surgery in Richmond. And I went there and I was like, wow, this is like The Walking Dead or something. Like,
Because it was like apocalyptic.
yeah, it was just everybody's walking around with masks. They're all like, I don't know. It's just really weird because I hadn't, for the past almost a year, I've been up, in the mountain, where I am, pretty isolated. Like, we go to the country store. Nobody wears a mask. We
Surrounded by a bunch of right-wing nut jobs.
Yeah, I love my right-wing nut job community. But, yeah, everything's like normal. Like you have to wear a mask if you go to like the big chain stores, like if you go to Walmart or something. But if you go to like the local nursery or the country store, you're not going to see people wearing masks, and they're going to get looked at funny if they do.
They tell people to take them off.
Yeah.
They're like, you should take that mask off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's your business. You know what I mean? Like, that's the interesting thing about the whole mask thing. Like, what if a business tells you can't wear masks? Like my view is it's private business, man. If it's that's the challenge with a lot of this passport stuff is that it's social enforcement.
Yeah.
If every business is saying we all do this, then what do you do?
Yeah.
I guess you just get your passport, right?
That's what makes me think that this bad information is freaky. Like, flu numbers are down, COVID numbers are up. Is that right? Like, the flu numbers were way down, but the COVID numbers were way up. And they were like, well, equal amounts of deaths is normal, but this time it's no flu deaths. It's all COVID deaths.
Yeah, but that could be spurious correlation.
Maybe.
Like,
could be. That's the thing. They don't know, but they want to force a vaccine. It's crazy.
Well, but I'll say this. So one of the things that they've been saying for a long time is that locking people inside their homes is a mistake because COVID transmits easier indoors. So it could be that putting people in their house makes flu go down, but then spreads COVID easier.
Yeah.
So it was like the dumbest thing they could have done. But not, I think that's like a simple solution, I suppose. But when you have, in Europe, they were like, if you're pregnant, don't get it. If you have food allergies, don't get it. And I'm like, okay, I won't. You know what I mean? I'll chill. I'm not in a rush. I think something like 50% of people said they're willing to just wait and take it easy. That's what's really interesting when Fox runs a story and they're like, everyone's longing for this, reopening. I'm like, most people said they're willing to wait on the vaccine because they're concerns about, potential long-term effects that haven't been studied properly.
Yeah, I might be in like a weird right-wing bubble because like my community are all, normal, sane people who are not freaking out about anything. But I'm perfectly happy not getting a passport, staying on my mountain, my garden, just
ordering
chilling.
from Amazon.
Yeah, everything gets delivered to my house. I don't even go grocery shopping. So it's like, okay, you guys enjoy your passports and
living in the
wherever.
mountains. So here's the crazy thing though, Virginia's red. West Virginia's red and Virginia's blue. Like even right where West Virginia and Virginia kind of meet, it's crazy how I've gone out there and talked to people and they're liberals.
Well, no, the border of West Virginia and Virginia, they're very red. Like you drive that area, it's all farmland and you're going to see like Trump signs everywhere. And I feel really bad for them actually because it's like they don't get a vote. West Virginia actually, I think it was about a year ago, offered to take those counties into West Virginia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it sucks for them. Like they're all pro-gun, they're, right wing, and they're being represented by the people who work in DC and live in the cities that are close to DC.
And you know why they don't want to live in DC?
Because it's horrible.
Because they're racist.
Oh.
Yeah,
Why?
I absolutely think it's because most of these well-to-do progressive liberal types are super racist. They don't want to live in the cities that they've destroyed with their policies. Like DC has a very, very high percentage of black residents. It's no surprise then the people who work in DC and run DC decide to move out of DC. They don't want to. This is what happens. And now Virginia's turning blue across the board, and then they're not going to want to live there in a year or two, and they're going to move to Maryland, or they're going to move south and go, to North Carolina or something, and slowly keep moving away from the things they keep voting for. One of the funny things about West Virginia is I see these stories where I was talking to a guy at a gun shop, and he was like, you can tell who the liberals are, like when they're moving in, because they complain about mountain things that no conservative cares about.
Yeah.
So like, someone said, my neighbor left their trash out, and why are they doing this? What do I got to do to make them pick their trash in? And everyone's like, who cares?
My local community Facebook group is always like joking about that. Whenever somebody new moves in, they'll be like, are you guys allowed to be shooting guns this close to people's houses? And they're like, welcome to the mountain. Get ready for the UTVs and ATVs too.
People, you'll see some, people driving around in Rascals with a couple of ARs, like, yeah, American flag.
Shout out to the United States, because I used to live first I was in the suburbs, grew up, then I went to the cities and lived that part of my life, and now in the mountains, it's like another world.
Yeah.
It's another world.
I love it.
It's like another country.
We got this race car. It's like super nice race car. And we've got these 2-foot quarter pipes in the parking lot, and we just bought it, and we're kind of like, we can do whatever we want. So this thing can go 60 miles an hour.
Oh
we
my
just
gosh.
launched the thing like 25 feet in the air, it's flipping around and smashes the ground and is bouncing, and we're like, probably gonna break it.
Just laughing.
But you can do that out here.
Yeah.
So that's the crazy thing too. Like the whole time with COVID, I've been saying that since when COVID started, we were in the Philadelphia area. That was actually really scary.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by all these people. And then you get told, like Donald Trump appears on TV and he's like, I'm shutting down travel to Europe and all this stuff. And we were like, damn, this is serious. Mm-hmm. And we were worried too, because like the supply shortage, the toilet paper was gone. Like our local Walmart, toilet paper all gone.
The neighbor bounced, like the one neighbor.
Yeah, the
they
neighbor
just
was
left
gone
town for like 2 months.
And then when the storm blew like the fence off, it was just down.
Yeah, they just abandoned their house
Yep.
for like 2 months.
They took off. I think it was longer than that.
Probably.
It's freaky.
was like
freaky.
all summer.
So then we ended up moving out to the middle of nowhere. It's like paradise. People just go about their business like normal. You go down to like the local shop.
Wait.
Nobody hassles you.
I just want to say though, we also have Bigfoot. People play their banjos really loud all night.
Mothman?
There's a lot of shooting, like things in their front yards, Confederate flags everywhere. Leftists, don't move.
Don't move out
Don't
here.
move to West Virginia. You will hate it. It's awful. And that is all. Just had to throw that in there.
So I tweeted. I don't know if you saw the story. Like Lindsey Graham said he has an AR-15. You see that? He's like doing an interview and he's like, I got an AR-15, and I forgot what he said. If it all goes bad or whatever, the gangs this is the last place the gangs will go because I can defend myself. And so I tweeted, Lindsey has an AR-15. Pathetic. We should ban AR-15s outright, completely. And then the government should issue everyone a Barrett M82, 50 BMG semi-automatic anti-material rifle. Then you'll truly. I'm kidding, by the way. But that's the thing about West Virginia, is that. Well, so I've been buying a lot of bullets because first of all they're hard to get, and then people were saying you want to have like 1,000 rounds per gun is like a good amount to have on store. And people got to realize this too. I'm sure to people who don't know anything about guns, 1,000 rounds sounds like a lot, because it did to me when I was first buying guns. You go to the range one time and you're like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
You go through like 120 really quick or something.
Real quick. I mean, if you're with your friends and you're practicing, you're doing training, you're gonna go through a decent amount of rounds quickly. So 1,000 rounds might be a couple months of practicing at the range. If you want to take it seriously, a lot of people don't shoot that much. But for hunting, people might shoot a couple times. Well, so I started buying bullets, and I was talking to a guy at the shop, and I was like, I'm getting a bunch of 12 gauge, and I was like, is this too much? Does this notify anybody? He started laughing, and he goes like, you think you're anywhere close to prepper territory or even West Virginia resident territory? He's like, come on, man, those are rookie numbers. You got to pump those numbers up. I'm like, all right, I'll take what you got. Put them in the box. And then I got like a huge box of 12 gauge, I guess. But it does go quick, But anyway, I digress. We're talking about COVID.
Sorry, I'm a West Virginia fangirl. Apologies.
And I like ammo. I'm talking about ammo. Ammo is the. Oh, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, sorry.
Like I brought this up before. You ever play Fallout? Caps, bottle caps is the currency of the future after the nuclear war. I think that it would just be ammo. So like you use your ammo or you trade your ammo. The ammo has weight. I think that'd be a great modification.
Super
for the game.
valuable.
Yeah.
Like
insanely valuable.
In another game I'm playing, it's water is the currency, so you carry that around, trade fresh water.
Yeah, but it depends, I suppose.
Case
Fresh
of
water is
food.
probably, but you're not going to be carrying around lots of water.
It's heavy. That's the problem.
Right.
Cigarettes and whiskey too.
Yeah.
So you can find like metal, copper, and stuff, but ammo. Cigarettes is a good one.
Yeah.
And
alcohol.
antibiotics.
Yes.
Bitcoin, because people will still have phones. I'm kidding. I have no
Will
idea.
we? No.
No, yeah, I don't know.
Stuff that disappears after you use it.
It's hard to know actually, because water makes sense, but you can't carry a lot of water around with you.
Right.
You can carry enough for personal use. You carry too much, and then you can't. You're actually exerting water to carry the water.
It's a
Yeah.
great currency model for a video game because of the weight.
Plus, if you're carrying a big thing of water on like a wagon, like you're
a
gonna be a
target.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these roving bands are going to show up.
You have to
so,
hide it somehow.
So maybe not water, but bullets make sense. You know, you'll
Bullets
be like,
for
"Here, I found
sure.
these."
Also
But-
heavy.
But I can't imagine that. Maybe casings, because bullets you got to use. You don't want to give those up. They're too valuable. Like,
Too valuable,
dude. If the apocalypse happens and you've got just like 5 9mm for your gun, you're going to be like, I will never give these things up. You know?
I would never want to fire them. That's why I train with the bow and arrow because I don't want to waste
can
my
reuse
ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's check this out. Let's talk about some serious COVID stuff right now. Rachel Maddow's like, just keep saying the same thing over and over again. The numbers keep going up until they can't anymore. That's the reality here as well. When they're looking at, it's like a cost risk analysis. You know, you ever see Fight Club where he's on the plane and he's like, if the cost of a lawsuit is less than the cost of a recall, we'll just take the lawsuit. Basically, that's the way it works. So you look at Fauci, you look at the government, and they're like, the cost of forcing people to stay home is lower than the cost of the risk should something go bad. Just make everybody stay home. And we used to be, we came from this group of people. And in fact, I'll tell you this, my props to all of the immigrants who are, you know, climbing mountains and riding trains and wandering through 90 miles of desert to get here. Because those people have more pioneer blood in them than most of these urban progressives and suburban uppity-do liberals.
Amen.
Who are like, I'd rather just be safe. Now, these people are like, I'm going to cross a mountain and rip my feet to shred and be abused and victimized by cartels, but I'm coming to America for that American dream. I respect that a heck of a lot more than people who are like, I just want to be safe. It's like that meme, you know, of the Shiba Inu being all ripped and strong. And it's like, colonists coming from Europe, dying on the boat halfway there, landing on a shore with nothing but trees and being like, I'm finding freedom. America today, just keep me safe. That's what we get. Now that's my rant.
I think that the further you get from these things, the easier it becomes to shrug it off. And I think part of the reason that Eastern Europe is still strong against communism is because they freaking remember. They remember what communism was like. And once they start to forget, it's all over.
I mean, that was not even 30 years ago.
It
man.
wasn't that long ago. Yeah.
Yeah, Luke, who's been on the show frequently. I don't know what Luke, you left all your
Luke.
steaks here.
Luke.
Like,
Luke,
made us buy
your
all these.
steaks are frozen, Luke.
We bought all these Peter Luger steaks. Like, you got to get Peter Luger
He's like,
steaks.
save
I'm
them for me. Keep them in the
I'll
freezer.
buy 'em.
All right, they're in the
Leaves.
freezer,
But-
dude.
But anyway, he was born
I'm gonna eat
born
one.
in Soviet Poland.
Thank God. That's part of why he's so
Poland
awesome.
was a satellite state of the Soviet Union, but he was born into, you know, that system.
It's made him
and
cool.
He left when he was a little kid. But I think it ended when he was very young.
His
Like,
parents and his like uncles and aunts went through it pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
And so he was told a lot about it. I don't think
Yeah.
he saw with his own eyes. I don't know if he saw horrors. He doesn't really talk about the horror a lot. You really got to kind of pry it out of him.
I would, you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to do like an ancestry analysis of the people who support critical race theory and where their grandparents were during the civil rights movement. Because I got a feeling that there's going to be some correlation between the status quo loving, uppity-do, anti-civil rights white folk and the critical race theorists of today. Either for one or two reasons, like it was a backlash. These people, you know, are ashamed of their history and ancestry. They're overtly racist. Their family's racist. And so they're like, yes, they're going to come out and admit their racism and then do everything they can to recognize and acknowledge all of these racial, you know, issues and everything. I wonder about that because you mentioned, you know, for Luke, his parents told him about what it was like in communism, so he naturally hates it. So what about these uppity-do critical race theory people? Did they learn about segregation or not that they're actually supporting it these days? Or actually, I guess,
Good
using
point.
communist tactics? Which brings me to our next story.
Dun, dun, dun.
Check this out. This is where it gets just real crazy, man. Daily Mail reports cops investigate Virginia teachers' Facebook group for naming parents who were against critical race theory and urging members to gather information on them. They say the anti-racist parents of Loudoun County group shared personal details of those they say had opposed moves to teach the controversial curriculum. I'm glad they're calling it controversial. It urged followers to, quote, gather information and silence critics of the theory. Others in the group encouraged people to share addresses and social media. According to Purdue University, critical race theory scholarship shows how racism continues to be persuasive and why it denies individuals their rights. Talk about double speak on that one. That's nuts. But critics say it leaves people exposed to the training, feeling like they are being blamed for problems which they did not cause, and that it itself is racially divisive. It's overtly racially discriminatory and racist. One parent on the list, Patty Mender, says, I was personally attacked. LCPS interim superintendent Scott Ziegler said, we fully support the expression of First Amendment rights and deplore any efforts to silence voices. All right, I got a question. Who is the LCPS superintendent talking about right there? He says, we fully support the First Amendment and deplore efforts to silence voices.
I'm guessing the teachers, because the liberals run all the school boards.
So, but wait. Is he defending the people who are being doxxed because it was threatening to silence them?
Doubt.
Or is he doubt, right? So he's defending the doxing.
Right.
Yeah, man. This
What
is
I would
a
I would put
cult,
money on
man.
it.
This is a cult.
Yeah.
It's a cult, Ian.
Dude,
It's a cult.
it's because we did have the civil rights, you're right. And a lot of people weren't privy to it, unfortunately. But like United States has never been a totalitarian dictatorship. So there's this threat of us falling into it seamlessly. And man, it looks like that's what this is.
But listen, it's social enforcement. This is the big thing people got to
it
recognize.
happens from the bottom up.
That's where it gets really creepy. And then once people lose confidence in government, which is literally happening, I mean, look at the 6, for instance. People are losing confidence in the system. And then you get a bottom-up movement of cultists who are just, the only thing they care about is being in their cult. Look, these people were posting for years anti-Asian sentiments all over social media, all over the place. And then one day the tide shifted and the cult decided that was wrong now. And now they're trying to cancel themselves because some of them were posting anti-Asian stuff. There is no rule. There's no rule. There's no structure to this. It's literally just a cult. Man, at least with Christianity, there's a Bible and people can follow tenets and understand and read through it. And I certainly believe there are instances where people selectively, will choose to follow or not follow some things. But there's literally a Bible. You can look at it. And yes, it's been retranslated and changed. And I'm critical of that. But for now, in the United States, King James Bible, there you go. You read it, you know what it says. Could you imagine if one day they were like, an editing board came out and they were like, on page, 232, we actually changed this one. You actually can eat shellfish now.
Oh.
We're good.
Basically, that's what they did. The Council of Nicaea.
Yeah.
I know, for sure. That's why I'm saying
They twisted that thing.
we can be critical of that. But at the very least, right now in the United States and for the past several generations, the Bible's been the Bible.
Yep.
For hundreds of years.
Since King James twisted his own version into reality.
Mm-hmm.
But with critical race theories, it's not even written down. At the very least, they had to translate it and argue about it, right?
Yeah, I think the Black Lives Matter had like tenets on their web page that they
they did.
stripped from the web page and they no longer have.
Yeah.
That was kind of the Bible. I mean, that's
Disrupting the nuclear family.
Yeah.
Check this out from the Daily Mail. San Francisco School Board strips vice president of her leadership title and removes her from all committees over 2016 tweets calling Asians. I'm not going to repeat. I'm not going to say the word. Disparaging racial term for black people, but she still refuses to resign. So this woman, what is her name? Allison, is her name Allison Collins? Anti-Asian tweets. Yes, Allison Collins. She posted that she wanted to give Asians a racial awakening. Total cult stuff. And then she referred to them in a very racist and disparaging way, like outright using a racial slur. Now they're calling for her to resign. This is all sorts of screwed up for several reasons. For one, this is the vice president of a school board in San Francisco, the people who are indoctrinating your kids using racial slurs and then claiming to be anti-racist. That's why I mentioned, like, who are these people's parents and grandparents?
Homeschool your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that we can't beat them by insulting them and calling them horrible for being racist. I just feel like the only way is to like, maybe it's so obnoxious to say this over and over again, but it's to create a better system, to be a pinnacle of what you believe in, which I think equality of opportunity of all of us, whatever we look like, I don't really care. And then
capitalism
and roll
again.
around in that. But this is interesting to talk about too. Like I almost completely ignore this stuff in my daily life. I focus on community, communication, organization. And there is a value to calling out the problem.
Pros
obviously.
and cons, though. If you ignore them,
Right.
they fester.
You have to call it out.
The problem is that the left is working really hard to get to children younger and younger. I mean, they're putting stuff on Sesame Street. They're getting critical race theory into elementary schools. They're doxing parents for having wrongthink. There was a school, I think in North Carolina or South Carolina, where they actually did a conference instructing parents to go up against, instructing the teachers to go up against and contradict the parents of the students.
Whoa.
I mean, there's just all this stuff going on. The left is targeting children with their agenda, and the right is largely like, we're going to lead by example, and we're going to, we want to keep kids out of politics. We're going to take the high road. We're not going to stoop to their level, but we're losing because of it. And
that's a culture revolution. Having the kids, indoctrinating them, and then telling them to reject their parents.
Yeah.
Hardcore culture revolution.
I was like disgusted. I posted about it for Gateway. I forget the name of the reporter. He's doing amazing work on critical race theory stuff right now that's happening. But he had a whole report about this conference, and you read it and it's just like, we're letting this happen. I mean, school board elections don't have party affiliation listed, which I know you support, but I don't, because we're getting all these leftists who are going into red areas, and they're deliberately going in there so that they can counter what the children are learning at home from their parents who are right wing. I hate it. It's
That's a
driving me
problem.
crazy.
But I think it's a bigger problem that people have given up on their civic responsibility.
Right.
So I think, Ian,
Yeah.
you agree with me on removing party affiliation.
Big time, yeah. I was just studying ancient Greece last night. I was telling you I was watching like a virtualization of Athens, and like they were talking about the politics, and like they would take 500 people from around of all 50 from all the 10 areas of Attica, bring them to Greece, to Athens, and then they would all be part of politics. And then 50 of those 500 would get chosen to be like the head of the council. This is everybody, every citizen, I think they were only males at the time, but every citizen, male citizen. And they were all involved, and they were all super excited to like adjudicate lawsuits about like people, are they guilty or not? They were just so involved. Everyone was so involved in the politics of the day. And I think we need that.
So now what happens is you get these leftists, these Marxists, they'll run and be on the school board, and then what? People are going to be like, this person sounds nice, and just vote for him?
Well, the problem is, yes, all of this stuff would be great in a utopia, like where we don't have political parties. Ideally, I would like there to not be political parties either, but there are. And so when you have school board elections, you don't have people named. These people are running on things like, we're going to get new school buses, we're going to help build a new football team. They're not talking about whether or not they're going to be pushing critical race theory. And people who live in these red areas assume that these are people from their communities who have similar culture and values. So they're not necessarily digging as hard as they should be. And a lot of these people are learning it right now. I've seen it happening in quite a few towns out in West Virginia. But it's a problem because people don't realize. I mean, they're just like...
You know what they say when you assume?
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like, I know, yeah. They make a butt out of you and
Make
me.
an ass out of us and you.
I think almost that we should be voting for smart contracts and not people. Because if those people are telling you, we're going to do this, this, and this, and then they go in and they also do that and that, we didn't vote for that.
Right.
We voted for their contract.
That's true.
Oh, interesting.
That's a good point, actually. Politicians should be like, these are the only things I plan to implement, and they should have a very comprehensive package. Because that's a really, really good point. Think about Andrew Yang, for instance. One of the reasons I liked him was that his policy proposals were off, was like nuts. Like the dude sat down and just started writing a book about all the policies he wanted. He had one on like MMA unions and stuff, and I'm like, man, this guy's...
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was thorough.
legit
Wild.
telling you, like, here's what I want to do. Now, I guess the problem is, like you guys both point out, if someone comes to you and says, no, I'm not going to do all those really bad things. I'm only going to do the really good things. And then you're like, then I vote for that. Then I choose you to do those things. Then as soon as they're elected, they're like, now I'm going to do the things you hate and not the things you like. Well, we should be able to be like, nah, Regis of Grievances. Mm-hmm. You ran on this slate of proposals. You are not implementing them. Instead, you're bringing in, critical race theory. They should be able to be removed instantly. There needs to be a way to do like an immediate emergency recall.
Well, thanks to COVID, at least, the one good thing that's come out of this is that kids have been learning at home. So parents are seeing what they're getting taught, and a lot of them are getting a rude awakening, like real bad. Yeah. And so I think that that the one good thing that might come out of this is that parents are going to be looking more into the education system in West Virginia. I'm sorry, I'm a West Virginia fangirl. Yesterday, Jim Justice, or it might have been today.
I think that was today.
Justice signed a bill where now we're going to be funding students instead of institutions. So
Is it like the voucher system, or how does it?
yeah, I'm so excited about this.
Wait, it's literally like a voucher thing where like
You can use it for homeschool. You can do private school, charter
that's
school.
a revolution, man.
It's so cool. I am amped about this. This is something that I've
So many states
been talking about for even years, even before I was on the right. But yeah, it just got signed into law. I think it goes into effect in 90 days. 90% of West Virginia children are going to be eligible for it. It's wonderful.
Wow.
So
That means if parents homeschool their kids, they're going to get a cash stipend for covering costs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
able
think
to
they're
do
called
it.
Hope Scholarships. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But it's something, Hope something. But they're going to do like savings accounts where you basically can access this money that is for the child's education. And you can put it towards public school or private school or whatever you want. Teachers unions obviously are outraged because who the heck wants to send their kid to public school if there's other options. It's glorious.
You know what I think?
Yay, justice.
We've become a very dull people, and I'm thinking of dull in terms of like color saturation. We are all such NPCs, and I don't mean like you or I or Lydia or Ian specifically.
No,
I mean
I'm
like,
awesome.
yeah, you're great. You're the best.
Just kidding.
No.
Sorry.
Obviously not us, though. I do think we're duller in a sense than people who came before us.
Yeah.
What I mean is that people have really just given everything up. Where are the parents to be like, I want to go to my school and be involved? And now they don't know that Marxism, critical race theory, whatever you want to call it, is seeping in.
Well, before my daughter was homeschooled, because she went to public school for about a year and a half, I was very involved in the school. And I didn't know half of the stuff that they were teaching them because they don't do it in front of the parents. Like, I went in, I volunteered every Friday. I went in as, like, a teacher's assistant, and I would help with crafts and cleaning and stuff like that. I went on all the field trips. I was involved in, like, parents groups. And you don't know any of this stuff. I mean, when I was there, we actually had a huge scandal, and the freaking school administration was threatening to call the cops on all of us because a 14-year-old student got raped in the bathroom by two adult illegal immigrants that were...
Wait, what? That happened?
Yeah, in Rockville, the Rockville rape.
Wow.
Now they say it wasn't rape and that it was consensual, but the fact of the matter is,
Wait
it
a
was
minute.
a 19-year-old who was in high school with our kids having sex with a 14-year-old and another guy. They took photos of it. The whole thing was horrible. And so me and a whole bunch of other parents were upset about it. And we started writing being like, hey, how many adults are going to school with our children? And there was nothing about race at all. I mean, I was still a leftist back then.
Who are these guys? Like, why were they there?
They were adult illegal immigrants, and,
Wow.
and they're placing them into the high schools because they're at such a lower learning curve that they're getting placed, some of them in middle schools. And so we all wanted to know how many adults were going. There was nothing about race. There was nothing about immigration. We just wanted to know how many adults were in the schools. They sent a school district-wide email saying that racism will not be tolerated, that they'll call the police. It was wild. I mean, I pulled my daughter out of school like 2 weeks later, but
I'm so sick of the cult, man.
yeah.
It's so amazing. And the only reason it works is because people have become dull. When someone comes out and you're like, I don't like the fact that a child was, attacked, and they go, you're racist. Shut your mouth.
Yeah, they
Get me swearing almost.
I mean, they red pilled a lot of moms that day.
Yep.
I was involved with all these parent groups. Everybody was super liberal. But as soon as that email came out, we all started messaging each other being like, what the hell is this? Like, it was crazy.
Safety.
Yeah.
The school's just thinking about what's the easiest way out. And so they're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just call them racist.
They blocked me on Twitter because I started tweeting about
Oh,
it
I
too.
remember
Wow.
The school district blocked me.
Nice.
And I wouldn't
But that's in
stop,
West
but-
Virginia?
No, that was back when I lived in just outside DC.
Right.
It was Rockville, the Rockville
Right,
rape.
right.
There was a ton of coverage of it. I mean, I was sending all the emails to every news station.
Now in
and
West Virginia, the
everything,
kid comes to school and they hand him a gun. There's your gun. Welcome to school.
Yes.
You're
They
13.
used to do
you're
that
you're an
back in the
adult
day,
now.
didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Well,
had,
they had gun clubs
Yeah.
Classes,
at the schools.
I could,
That's a good idea.
I was thinking about guns and gun rights, and I think I realized something when you first start buying guns and getting into it, you realize we're totally desensitized to cars. I know cars aren't created for the purpose of killing people, so I get that part of the left's argument. Cars are dangerous. Cars kill a lot of people very, 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 very often. And I think about how we walk through busy streets. You go to New York and like somebody will just walk through a busy street as cars are flying past them because they know people will use their brakes. Why don't they have that same level of trust in somebody walking down the street with a gun?
That's a really good point.
I know, and I've seen kids. They're just like arrogantly walking the street, and the car will slow down and start honking at them angrily. Or look at the Antifa people who go around surrounding cars and smashing them. They know no one's going to do anything to them. Yet when it comes to guns, the assumption is that like every law-abiding citizen will just go nuts and start shooting randomly.
I think because guns are unique, they're not transport vehicles. Like their only job is to fire a bullet, basically, which is basically a killing tool.
It's not necessarily true. You can also consider them a deterrent. If you see somebody with a gun, you're not going to mess with them.
But I see your point,
Yeah.
Ian. But what I'm saying is, don't you trust people?
Kind of, dude. Sometimes I drive down the road and I'm like, whoa, okay.
No, for sure.
2 tons of metal going past each
Yeah.
other, 120 miles an hour, calculated, both 60 in each direction. And we're just trusting that neither one of us is going to.
It's amazing,
wheel.
isn't it? Think about this.
Yeah.
I'm driving down a West Virginia road, and it's like 55-mile limit, and there's a thin yellow paint strip in the middle of the road to stop me and another car, which is like 2 feet from me, from slamming in with the full force of 110 miles an hour, and I was just mutilating and vaporizing
to answer your
myself.
question, yeah, I trust people on like
Put
explicitly.
it mildly.
I don't. I'm constantly holding the O. I don't know. I call it the OSH word.
O-ish. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I call it
O-ish
the
handle.
OS
No, but,
bar.
like, That's what I realized when I would walk around West Virginia. I see those people with guns all the time. And I'm just like, I'm not worried about any of these people doing anything to me because I'm not worried about cars either.
So you're becoming desensitized to it because I bet if people had never seen a car and they were first time,
They'd
they'd be
freak out.
terrified.
Freaking out.
Yeah.
Yup.
Yeah.
Like, it's coming right for me.
But since we're like 2 or 3, they're like, "What? Look both ways at the car." I mean, in the very beginning, we were probably terrified of the
Yeah.
noise,
Yeah.
of the speed, and you just get used to it.
It's trust, man. Regular people are all right. But guess what? Sometimes people ram cars into people. Like we see these videos, man. And there's some really awful instances that have happened to that van thing in Europe. So we've just become so accustomed and desensitized to the fact that regular people just want to live their lives. Sometimes people drink and drive.
I think a lot of it is situational too, though. When I lived in DC, when I heard gunshots, I would get scared and I would like contemplate calling the police or going to look if there's somebody like dying outside. When I hear gunshots in West Virginia, we all say like it sounds like freedom because you know that it's just like one of your neighbors doing target practice in the yard.
Yeah.
So it's different.
Think about it this way. If you are in an area where guns are and you know what people are doing with the guns, you're not worried.
Right.
People they're shooting at the range down by in the mountain, shooting at with a really great backstop. And if you're in a big city and you hear car noises, you're fine. Now imagine this: you're in the middle of nowhere on top of a mountain. There's no roads anywhere for like 15 miles, and you hear cars driving around. You're gonna freak out.
Right.
Like if you're in your cabin in the woods on your property, it's like 20 acres or something in the middle of nowhere, or you're on some resort. And you hear cars driving around and there's no roads, you'll probably wake up like, what is going on? You'll freak out. Imagine if you were, vacationing somewhere in a private community and then you hear a weird noise that doesn't belong. Doesn't matter if it's a car or otherwise. Same thing is true for guns. When you're in DC and you know the only reason people are shooting is because they're criminals, it's going to freak you out.
Yeah. I mean, and it's weird because it's kind of backwards for me now. I live on like a dead end road. So when I hear cars, I get freaked out.
Right.
But when I hear
Exactly.
gunshots, I'm like, oh, it's just, the neighbors. Even my liberal neighbors will sit on their front lawn. We have like one semi-liberal house in the community. And even they sit out there and they'll like shoot off their porch and stuff. And so
That's
like,
liberal to you.
yeah. I mean, they probably libertarian, but whatever. They're more left than the majority of people on our street. But when I hear a car go by, I'm always like, what the heck is that? And then I'm like, oh, it's just the dump truck. But we don't even have like mail that comes to the house because
Right.
I'm so far out there.
Yeah.
So when a car comes up, I'm like, oh, who the heck?
What's
What's
this?
going on? But when I hear gunshots, I'm just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was
People
walking
shooting.
through this area in West Virginia and I heard gunshots going off and I'm like, I got to find out where those are. And I'm walking towards the sound.
Oh my God.
You know why? because the people who are there shooting aren't insane people. They're not shooting randomly into the woods, and it's not hunting season. So I know that as long as, you know, if I'm going to make my way to these people, I know that they're probably target shooting because I was told specifically by a store that they do target shooting. I'm hearing this, then I know they're very, very likely practicing safety, and I'm not worried about them. It's just like when I'm crossing the street, I'm not worried about a car crashing into me. I know that I see the car. I don't try making cars brake for me when I cross the street. You know what I mean? Like if you have a crosswalk, I'll try to like run across quickly, but I'm not worried they're going to slam the gas on and try and, you know, steer into me. I know it's not going to happen. They don't want to do that. So when I hear shots in the middle of nowhere and I know there's a range nearby, I'm like, I'm not worried that someone's going to have an accidental discharge. These people are at a range. They're shooting. I'm going to keep following the noise. And then I ended up finding the range, and there was a guy, an older guy, and he was, you know, zeroing in his sights for his, you know, hunting rifle of some sort. And I was like, hey, howdy. And he's like, hey, how's it going? He's like, oh, we're about done here. It's all yours. And I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. And that was it.
Yeah.
That's regular people.
So are you guys familiar with the story of Switzerland and how they do their guns?
No.
I was reading about them, and they start to train their kids to shoot when they're very young. This is culturally acceptable. They go to these shooting clubs. Boys, it used to be a boys-only thing. Now boys and girls do it. From my understanding, they did have like a mandatory military service. Everyone has a gun. 0 murder rates. Everyone treats them responsibly. And I caught a little bit of heat on Twitter for saying this, but I think that guns should be viewed not as a toy, but as something that is fun and recreational, worthy of respect, a tool, something important that we need to understand and like really grasp. I think that's what we're missing. We need to make it like a cultural norm for guns to be acceptable. Because if we don't, they're just going to be terrifying, and only bad people are going to have them.
We're getting dull. Like dull in color and dull in sharpness.
Yep.
People used to die all the time. It was crazy.
It was crazy.
Yeah, people would have like 10 kids because
No
half of them would die.
aesthetic.
I was just telling you guys about that siege in Crete, where it was a 21-year siege where kids were born into this city that was under siege, and till 21, and they would dig tunnels. I mean, their life was they would go under in tunnels. They couldn't see a guy from me to you, and they'd have knives or like bats and try and kill each other in these tunnels and lay mines. And I mean, it's just
Sounds horrible, dude.
horrible. This was like 500 years ago. This is.
I'm glad we don't do that anymore.
I know, and thank God. But like, if we're not careful, it could degrade back to that. Like, that's why I'm studying this stuff. Like, how do we survive if society collapses? Oh, you build mines under the opposing fence, and then you let.
Yikes!
It's crazy, dude. And like tunnel rats in Vietnam, they would climb down into the mud and climb in this like. The suffocation was a constant threat. Just the terror and horror of war, and we have grown soft to that stuff.
To everything,
Luckily,
though. So it's like what's happening now is these cultists are coming in, they're taking over, and it's a really weird thing. Like, I don't understand this weird overlap between the liberals, the left, and wokeness, because there are a bunch of hard leftists like DSA. They're as woke can be, to the point where it's actually horrifying. Like that video where the guy's like, "Hello, my name's Toby, he, him. I just like to say, point of privilege. The chatter in this room is really making it hard for me to focus. Everybody, guys, you need to calm down." And the other person goes, "Stop saying guys and don't." And I'm like, this is just lunacy. They couldn't even have a cohesive meeting, you know. So I'm wondering, where's that? Then there's like the dirtbag left that are pro-gun, anti-woke, and just socialists. So I'm like, what's this overlap? So are these cultists? Are they socialists? The people who are coming in doing critical race theory in these schools? Or are they just woke
How hard
cultists?
could it be?
You know what I mean?
That was an easy
Or is
job.
there an overlap?
opportunists. Yeah,
I
they're-
mean, I think they're Marxists.
So they're like all about redistribution of the means of production, or
I'll
what?
bounce back.
Yeah, and they're also on a power trip. A lot of this, I think, isn't even political necessarily. I think that some people got bullied in high school, and now they want to get back at the world by bullying everybody else. I honestly think that a lot of it is not political. I think that it's just power.
It's a cult.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Power,
And
100%.
that's what I was saying earlier. It's like the rules don't exist. They change on a whim, because the real goal is that the real issue is that there is a chaotic, destructive force that just seeks to infect and destroy, and it has no real goals. Like, think about what the woke stuff is doing. What is it doing? It's
vengeance.
destroying businesses.
Yeah, it's all
It's
revenge.
corroding culture and destroying enterprise and business.
People want to be avengers in real life. They want to avenge their past torture
No,
from
listen.
being bullied. I know, because I went through it in 2006. I started making YouTube videos. I was like, wow, if I want to destroy anyone right now, I could get a crowd of people to go destroy their lives. Not physically, but just basically, it was pre-cancel culture, pre-docs, pre all that stuff. But I realized how powerful it was, this ostracization and how humiliation of people I could use, because I had like 10,000 people would watch, and I'd be like, call this guy on this day. Everyone call him at this time and let him know this information. And then let's do it again tomorrow. And like the power of the crowd,
horrifying.
it was. And I didn't allow myself to fall. Thank God.
Think about it this way. You said the Avengers. Marvel movies were amazing. Making tons of money. Everybody really likes them. And they started getting a little woke. And then people started complaining a little bit. You know, Black Panther got some heat, which I don't think was entirely undeserved, but I like Black Panther. I give it a 7 out of 10. Captain Marvel got roasted, and it absolutely deserved it. Now, they all made a ton of money. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, that was the biggest cultural institution we had in film. Like, the Marvel movies each movie's over $1 billion. Endgame was like the biggest movie for a while. I guess Avatar got re-released. And then they infect it with this cult that starts just destroying what makes it interesting. Then you start seeing, some of the movies that come out are not as good, and the writing gets a little weaker. And it's like eating at the base of what makes things fun and interesting, and slowly eroding and destroying them. It creates nothing. It does nothing. That's why I think Marxism makes sense. These people want to completely destroy what culture there is to create a new one. They want to erase it first. So they're not producing anything. They're going to just destroy everything, and then from the ashes, they will try to build anew.
I'm not familiar enough with Marxism. Like communism, like China is like a pseudo or like a neo-communist. It's not a real communist. It's like capitalist.
It's just totalitarianism.
Yeah, it's a weird like amalgamation of communism and capitalism, and so there probably is a new word for it. Maybe what these people are doing is a new word for like a neo-Marxism.
I would say it's fair to say real communism has never been tried. And then you must add the caveat to that, because every single time someone does try to do, or I'm sorry, no, that's wrong. Real communism has never been implemented. And the issue is that every time real communism is tried, they end up just killing tons and tons of people, millions of people. And so that says to me that every single time you try, you will not be able to successfully implement your utopian vision of full-on communism.
It's a feature.
Yeah, well, so the general ideas people have, and that's why they don't believe, that they ignore the history, is they're like, gotta keep trying. They have this magic view that we're all gonna live in a utopia, that we're all just gonna be holding hands and singing under a rainbow, and then everyone will own everything, and it's just garbage nonsense fairy tales. So then someone says, I'm going to try and do it.
If you want to
Hello, good sir Ian. I'm going to make a communist utopia, as we've all dreamed. Would you like to join? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Cassandra, would you like to join my communist utopia?
Sure.
You would. Lydia, would you?
Yeah, sure.
Congratulations. None of you have to die.
Wait, I'm having second thoughts.
Oh, I've got a Glock 9mm here.
Not about this. Oh, it's too late.
Now there's no one left to oppose my utopian vision. That's exactly what happens every time. It doesn't work because people say two words. I disagree. Well, I'm going to have to kill you, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's essentially what they're doing to people, like, digitally now. They're making it so people can't get jobs. They can't get bank accounts. I mean, they're effectively, like, trying to kill people.
But that's why it just becomes authoritarianism.
Yeah.
I mean, you call it fascism if you want, and the left says, well, fascism is actually, I don't care what you want to call it.
Doesn't matter.
It's a bunch of psychopathic, violent morons who are going to destroy everything because they want power. They're not smart enough to make a machine work, so they're going to throw a wrench in it.
You need some authority, like obviously at a local level of authority. You need a sheriff. Maybe you don't need a sheriff these days, but it seems like you need a local order.
Sheriffs
but top-down authority is very dangerous. That's the path. That's the lesson I've learned.
I was talking to this anarchist dude about how in Acapulco, is it?
Acapulco?
Not an Acapulco, just like
Acapulco?
Acapulco. Yeah. It's very anarchistic, and that's what they do in Acapulco. And I was like, this guy's telling me, he's like, look, where I live, there's no government, there's no police, there's no law, and everyone gets along just fine. And I was like, so what would happen if you walked into your neighbor's house and took his stuff? He's like, I'd probably shoot me. I'm like, oh, because you have a general understanding about what is and isn't acceptable, right? Of course, that's how people work. And I was like, listen. The general understanding of what is or isn't acceptable is the basic formation of government between people, a social order that exists. So you're not in, okay, fine, I get it. You call it anarchy, and there's no authority. So an without archy authority, that I understand. But there is government.
Death
people are
is
armed.
Inevitable.
And so let me ask you another question. If someone comes into your house and takes your stuff, Would your neighbors help you stop that person? Yes. Congratulations, you formed a small
Well,
government.
this wasn't what I signed up for.
There's no exchange of
It's the
currency.
least you
You just
deserve.
agree. We live here. We're in charge, and if someone comes and tries to take from us, we're going to use force against them. Scale that up, and you get more and more government. So it's really simple to start creating government, and then you take a look at these small anarchist communities, and it's no surprise that over time, as more and more people move in, government becomes more and more overbearing. So I actually was thinking about this in terms of science. And I feel like it's basically following a similar principle to the state of matter. So I think about it this way. You have gas. Particles are far apart, bouncing around all crazy, and so it makes this, gas can be, moved and shifted about, and you can whiff through it and all that stuff. As you start to compress that into a tighter and tighter space, it becomes liquid. Now it's harder to move through. And then if you compress it even further, it becomes a solid. Now you can't move through it at all. That's basically how I view government. If you have a bunch of people all separated, then they have these big bubbles of inherent of personal freedom where they can do whatever they want. We can go outside and launch our remote control car 50 feet up in the air and then laugh as it smashes it in the ground. You can't do that in New York. They'll come and get angry. Because the closer people get together, it starts becoming rigid like solid matter. People's rights get compressed as more and more people emerge around them. And then big cities start pushing totalitarian and despotic rules and laws. Can't have guns anymore. You can't play loud music. You can't, play instruments in your own home. You can't go out at certain points. Oh no, there's a pandemic. Now everyone's got to get shots. Now everyone's got to get vaccine passports. Then you go to the mountain where everyone's separated. Life's normal.
Yeah.
Totally free.
We're
Move
also
through it.
unincorporated too, so we don't even have that much government really. I mean, obviously we have state and county and stuff, but we don't. I mean, people will be in our group chat being like, "Hey, is this legal?" And people will respond and be like, "Is somebody gonna die?" And then they'll be like, "No," and they're like, "Okay, then do it." What do we Nobody cares. I mean, it's
That's so we had a conversation about guns with Luke, and we were talking about how in New York City, for instance, it's almost impossible to have a gun.
I won't
And then you get all these
stand
liberals
by
being like,
as
why would
innocent
anyone
people
need
are
an AR-15?
slaughtered.
And it's
stay
you're not even
gone.
saying anything when you say that because there's so many different variants and calibers and modifications. Just you don't know what you're talking about. But I mentioned, it's probably not a good idea for someone to have a 308, rifle for home defense in a studio condo in New York City, because that bullet's going to rip through walls and maybe hit somebody. And then Luke instinctively said, maybe we restrict. And I was like, oh, up. The point is, maybe the individual is responsible for whatever comes out of the barrel of that gun. And if they do have a 308 in their home, they should know better than firing it because it's going to go through walls. And if they hit somebody, that's negligent homicide because you are the individual responsible for that weapon. You should be allowed to have it. But if you shoot it, you're going to get arrested when someone gets hit or for the vandalism and damage you caused by doing it. Same as if you had a car and you drove onto private property, you're in trouble. Same if you had a car and you were speeding and you hit somebody. You're legally allowed to have a car. You're not legally allowed to crash that car into someone's storefront. So I'm like, that's the idea of individual responsibility in big cities. You can still have that freedom. It's just your responsibility.
I really like this metaphor of states of matter and government, constriction, pressure, because beyond, so maybe we're in the fluidic state. It's either liquid or gas. There's resistance when you move. The government is the resistance. You can kind of push through it. There's wind resistance. You hit terminal velocity. But once you get even more spacious than gas, you turn into plasma, which is the fourth state of matter, which is there is no wind resistance in a plasma
People are
state.
running around firing rockets in their backyards.
It's electromagnetic. Yeah, what is it like?
Plasma is the fourth state of matter. I would liken that to living literally in, 100 square miles of desert with no one around you.
Utopia.
You could just take a dump right there.
With access to
Like
whatever
no
you
one-
need.
the only-
Electrons can appear in different places within the cloud.
Okay, no, I don't know about that.
Or matter formation.
I'm just talking about the closer people come together, their rights start compressing, and it becomes totalitarian, like a rigid, solid state
And
of matter.
if you need to import resources, that's bringing people closer together. So if you don't need to import resources and you can create them on the spot, you can take a dump in the desert, you can create your water and your food.
The fourth state of
That's
this,
where we're headed.
The fourth state of this analogy
Yes.
is that you're in the middle of the woods on this massive 200-acre plot of land you own, and there's no one who's allowed on your property, and you take a dump right there in an open field, and the only one you bothered is the guy in the space station who's looking down with his, satellite telescope, whatever, and he's like,
Posting it to Instagram.
You know, he's like, that's so gross.
I
Or he
think-
laughs and he's like, legit.
If people had lots of space and could create all their materials on source, like at location, I think that we would not really need government.
Dude,
Not
if
like
there-
this.
You could have in the middle of nowhere.
would be
I
a
mean, there
magnetic
still
government.
is population density of the planet, which means you can't build nuclear weapons and stuff because you'll interfere with them at a greater distance. But think about like your range of effect when it comes to your rights. If you live in a tiny cubicle apartment in New York, you can't play the drums, man, because you're gonna have 10 people being like, "Dude, come on, man, it's not fair to us."
I know that firsthand.
Right.
It's sad.
And so you're like, I have a right to be noisy between these hours. And it's true, but it's kind of a dick move. People might gotta sleep, they might got a night shift. So it's not necessarily just about law, it's about social enforcement. Now you live in the middle of nowhere, 200 acres, you're right in the middle. You could literally pull out, just watch Hickok 45. The dude just goes nuts. I watched the video, I was tweeting about the KSG 25. Dude loads KSG 25 with slugs. It's a tactical shotgun that holds 25 shotgun shells. And he's just going boom, boom, like crazy, just shooting shotgun slugs like nuts because there's nobody around him.
And
in the
if
middle
you
of nowhere.
had your own planet, you could set off nukes all over the planet and no one would care.
Exactly. That's the plasma. You have your own planet, like Dr. Manhattan, and he builds a gigantic weird structure and he floats around doing whatever he wants because you got no one to bother.
And that's literally, you could light off nukes and no one would care.
Well, let's
it wouldn't be concerned.
Let's jump to a less philosophical but interesting story about someone bothering somebody. This is nuts. You guys ready for this?
Oh, yeah.
Nike sues rapper Lil Nas X over Satan shoes that have real blood in the soles. The shoes, which contain a drop of human blood in the sole, went on sale Monday for $1,018 per pair. They say the shoes are unofficial designs of Nike's trademark Air Max 97 design, though the shoe company said is not involved with the creation of the shoe. They contain a drop of human blood in the sole and went on sale Monday. Only 666 pairs were made available, and all were sold out shortly after going on sale. The shoes drew plenty of high-profile critics, including South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem and former Clemson University quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Our kids are being told that this kind of product is not only okay, it's exclusive, Noem tweeted. The artist responded by writing, "You're a whole governor, and you on here tweeting about some damn shoes. Do your job." Lil Nas X is not named as a defendant in Nike's lawsuit. Not named, interesting. Shortly after the lawsuit was announced, he posted a tweet showing a homeless Squidward from SpongeBob SquarePants begging for change. And it says, "Me after the Nike lawsuit." And there's a homeless Squidward. I thought that was funny. I thought that was funny.
Kind of funny.
Nike filed a trademark infringement and dilution complaint
If you want
against
a job done
MSCHF today related to Satan shoes. Quote, "We don't have
Ghosting
further
feels
details to
weird, I
share
know.
on pending legal matters. However, we can tell you we do not have a relationship with Lil Nas X or Mischief. The Satan shoes were produced without Nike's approval or authorization, and Nike is in no way connected with this project." First of all, that tweet with the Squidward thing, that was legit. That was funny. How did he decide? Like, how was he able to make a Nike shoe without Nike's approval? That's just nuts
They're
to me.
customs. They're not actually by Nike.
But isn't that infringement of some sort? Like,
You would think, but it seems like there's a huge culture. I've been learning this the last 2 days because I'm in a Twitter war with Nas's fans.
You'll
right
be
now.
fine.
I
Trust
got
me.
ratioed to hell myself, but there's this like huge subculture of people who customize sneakers, and apparently it's a really big deal. And Nike normally doesn't enforce copyright, I guess, but because this one has caused so much blowback, I think they had no choice, really.
I don't care about this shoe.
This
I
is,
actually think it's kind of funny.
he dripped blood in the shoes and then resold them. Is that what it is?
I
I
wonder.
don't think it's his blood. I really want to know whose blood it is.
Yeah,
That's kinda
Nobody
weird.
has
That's so
said.
creepy.
I mean, look, I think it's weird, but I think if somebody wants to make a weird shoe and sell it, and they like, oh, I'm saying, bleh.
But
whatever.
it had the
man, do your
Nike
thing, I don't
design
know.
on it, the logo.
Yeah.
Okay.
My issue with it is not the troll game. Like, I respect his troll game.
Yeah.
He got me
That's
ratioed
legit.
real hard.
His
Like,
troll
I got
game's on
ratioed
point.
to hell. Like, it was crazy. I have to give him props for that at least. I
I could get
you know,
used
troll
to working
respects
with
troll, I
others.
guess.
Yeah.
But my only issue with anything that he's done is the fact that in January he was doing interviews with NPR bragging about how children are his fan base. He was doing videos with Elmo. He wrote a children's book. He performed in an elementary school gym. Like I think there was a Kids Bop version of Country Roads or whatever the song's called. I mean, he really went out of his way to market to children, which is a smart thing to do because children are a huge consumer base and parents are going to spend money on their kids all the time. And it's smart.
I think I'm glad he did.
But the problem is you can't brand yourself.
Ghosting feels
I mean,
weird,
I think that the lyrics to Old Town Road are questionable anyway, and parents probably shouldn't have been letting their kids listen to it. But, after the children's book and the NPR interview and doing a concert in Roblox, he's branded himself as somebody that is safe for children.
So this is the best thing he could have done with the Satan shoe with the blood in it. Because now parents are going to be like, whoa, maybe I shouldn't have my kid following this
if
stuff.
they catch it on time. I mean, as a parent, I have a really difficult time with it because my daughter wants to watch people playing video games and stuff. And so I'll be watching a video game channel with her and it'll seem very wholesome and it'll be great for weeks. And then all of a sudden they'll start talking about like some insane cult blue anon nonsense or saying that there's 170 genders or whatever the hell. And it's hard to keep up with it, especially on YouTube and stuff like that. But even with like Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, it's very hard right now to find like wholesome content that you can trust. And I know parents work and there's all kinds of stuff going on. You can't always keep up. This guy built a reputation that he was safe for children. And then he came out with a video where he's pole dancing to hell and then giving a lap dance to Satan. You can't really blame parents for being upset with this one.
I'm just saying, by doing this and generating the controversy, it's like setting a flare. Safe for kids.
Right, which is why people are calling it out.
Right.
Everybody's like, you're trying to get him canceled and, all this stuff. And first it's like, yeah, kind of, because like I firmly believe that we should be canceling the left back. But also it's more about making sure that parents see it. You want parents to know not to let their kids watch this. And so by putting articles up on Gateway Pundit that are getting, hundreds of thousands of views, maybe some parents will be like, oh crap, my kid really likes this. I better watch out.
Absolutely.
And I think that's important.
It kind of reminds me of, I think it's a Family Guy joke where they give, one of the kids like Stewie a children's video on YouTube and they're like, hi kids, let's learn the ABCs. And then like the parent walks away and they're like, ABC. All right, your parents gone? Good. Go into mommy's purse, get her credit card.
Yeah,
now go to this website. Yeah. It's like, are they gone? All right, let's do this. But there's a lot of jokes like that. I just think, for one, again, I'll stress his troll game's on point. And so I look at what he's doing as like screwing the status quo. It's punk rock, man. And I was thinking about that, like, where's the... we talked about Eminem's song "Cancel Me" or something, I think it's called. I don't know.
Without Me?
No. It's like a new one. They're trying to cancel
I
me.
think he's so dorky.
Yeah,
That's
it's not
for
very
sure.
good. But we talked about that song "Without Me." You guys remember that song?
I love that
From
song.
like
That's not what it's called, I
2002.
don't remember.
The whole song
Real
makes
Slim
no
Shady.
sense.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
No. "Without Me"
Took
is
me
not
a
the
minute.
Real Slim Shady. That's
Oh,
a
I
different
thought
song.
it was, yeah.
It's called "Without Me."
Yeah.
And the whole song is about cultural references at the time. He's literally just talking smack and being extremely offensive. I don't think anybody would make anything like that and popularize it on TV or in movies the way they did. Because he literally makes disparaging remarks about Christina Aguilera, surfacing to guys from that era in the song. And that song's got 1 billion views. I'm just thinking about this stuff. Like, where are the people who are like, I'm going to screw with the system to like my utmost, like to the maximum possible level and just tell everyone to go shove it. And you can't do anything about it.
I mean, this isn't new, though. We had Marilyn Manson. We've had all this stuff
Right.
before. It's not new.
It's just
the
kids
only
thing.
thing that's different is, this is literally 2 months ago. It's not like we're talking about like Miley Cyrus, where she was a child star and then grew up and started making content that was more geared for adults. I know people still get mad about that, but that bothers me less. This was literally in January. He's putting out children's books. He's going on NPR talking about how he wants to appeal to children or how he likes that he appeals to children. And it was a marketing strategy. Children are a huge product consumer base.
Like what? How old of children?
I mean, the average age for a Roblox concert is under 13.
Wow.
Like the average Roblox user is under 13. My daughter uses it all the time. He did a video with Elmo. I mean, that's geared towards toddlers.
Sesame Street went like full on racist
Oh,
apparently anyway. So Elmo got to learn about why Martin Luther King Jr. was wrong in one of the weirdest segments I've ever seen Sesame Street do. It's amazing.
Tell me.
Yeah, so Sesame Street introduces 2 new black puppets, ABCs of racial literacy. And apparently these characters are saying like the color of their skin is a very important aspect of who they are. All right, fine. I'm being a bit hyperbolic when I say they learn about why Martin Luther King was wrong. That's not literally what they're saying. I'm sure Martin Luther King Jr. thought there was relevancy to the color of skin because of racism. They say, first revealed on March 24th by Sesame Workshop, the nonprofit organization responsible for the long-running children's show production, ABCs of Racial Literacy resource, is designed to help families celebrate their own unique identities and answer children's tough questions about race and racism. Apparently in this like Sesame Street segment, he asks them why they're like black and they explain their race and all that stuff. The issue I take with it is that while I certainly think color blindness as a general term is probably not a good thing, we do want to recognize racism exists and that people are treated poorly. You want to treat people as equals without consideration of their race. The problem is, I guess, many people are saying, no, you should give me positive discrimination because of past discrimination. That's Ibram X. Kendi's like thought process. So sure, this dude's doing videos with Elmo. I'm not sure Elmo is something people want to have their kids watch. But you know what happens? I bet a lot of millennial parents are like, I used to watch Sesame Street. You should watch Sesame Street too. And their kid comes in one day and like a 7-year-old goes to their mom and starts preaching about racial segregation. And the mom's going to be like, what?
I
Maybe
mean,
you should
this
have paid
just
attention.
happened to me like recently, and it's shocking. Like I am almost a helicopter parent about what my daughter sees, what she does on the internet. I don't allow her to be on the internet if I'm not in the room. Like I am kind of a bit much about this.
What they're
But I was watching. We went on vacation. We don't have cable at my house. We just watch like streaming services. But we were on vacation. We were in the hotel room, and I put on the Disney Channel. And we were just watching a show that we've watched a million times, old show, so it's not, over the top. But a commercial came on talking about like the impeachment and how he's not necessary, just because he was found not guilty doesn't mean he didn't do something wrong. And then Black Lives Matter commercials and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, when I was little, Disney was wholesome as heck. Like, and so I implicitly, like, I trust Disney Channel and Nickelodeon and stuff, because when I was a kid, it was like people getting slimed and stuff. They weren't talking about politics. They weren't talking about this stuff.
Wow. When I was a kid, all that stuff I wanted to do the opposite of. You know what I mean? Like when we would see those commercials about like, well, at least maybe it's growing up in the south side of Chicago, where they're like, stay out of gangs, kids, and don't do drugs. Like all of my friends were like, I think I'm going to go do those things.
What are those?
Yeah, what are those? Yeah, apparently there was like, I guess in some instances, the DARE program, which was telling kids not to do drugs, just taught them how to do drugs.
It's like, don't put it in your mouth and light it with a lighter and then suck it in. Don't do that.
Don't inhale afterwards. Yeah. So we just watched Man of the Year, just like as an aside real quick. Have you seen Man of the Year?
No.
From 2006, Robin Williams. So Andreas was telling us, he's a dude who hangs out here. He was telling us that there's a scene where Robin Williams says Kofifi over and over again. He doesn't, but we watched the film. It's about a media personality who's supposed to be like Jon Stewart. And people are like, why don't you run for president? He does. And then he wins. It's the craziest thing. You got to watch it. You got to see this movie. You know why? You know why you got to watch it?
No.
It was like watching someone predict Donald Trump. Robin Williams plays a misogynistic, anti-Semitic comedian. And I don't mean that in the literal sense. I mean that at the time, that comedy was considered appropriate and good, and everyone loved it on the left. So when he makes jokes about women and Jews and illegal aliens, everyone's laughing. And so he actually gets like 10% in the polls. There's one scene where basically he's debating the other two presidents because his poll numbers were so well. And then he's like, they want to add a constitutional amendment saying you can't burn the American flag. It's a distraction because 4 million illegal aliens just crossed our border. Robin Williams said that. Wow. And I was like, this is crazy. And then he ends up winning. I'm going to spoil the movie. It's 20 years old. But he ends up winning because of a computer glitch. So new electronic voting machines are brought in. And there's a glitch which causes him to win. It's the weirdest thing ever. Just like watching this movie. Now, the craziest thing about it is it ends with, like, he wins the presidency. Then it ends with him realizing he didn't really win. He goes on Saturday Night Live and he's like, the establishment should be in charge. We should allow the political elites who have no allegiance to the American people. But, like, he says, seriously? The whole point of the movie is him saying the Republican Party and the Democratic Party don't represent us anymore, that they're just in it for the special interests. They take all this money, then they owe favors to these interests, and they pay him back by screwing over the little guy and ignoring what the people need. And at the end, he's like, but you know what? Maybe that's how it should be. And then they all cheer and celebrate, and Saturday Night Live is like, yay. It's a really creepy movie.
Wow.
Super creepy. Yeah. You should check it out. Okay. Anyway, let's go to Super Chats. My friends, if you have not already, smash that like button because it really, really does help.
Crush it.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and go to timcast.com. Become a member. We are actually, we're going through the hiring process for a few people. We've already brought on some people. And we're going to be hiring writers. We're going to start doing articles. We're going to have legit fact-checking, all this really great stuff. And we're going to be doing new shows. So Cassandra and I are planning a cult, paranormal, weird, and wild. We just got to figure out how to get it going, and then we'll get it going. But, like, you know, these are things that are all happening. The difficulty is we got to bring on people to do administrative production positions so they can oversee these projects, because I can't literally do everything. There's only so many hours in a day. But become a member, because when you sign up for timcast.com, not only do you get access to these amazing bonus segments that we'll do, and we'll have one tonight, you are helping to fund the creation of new content. And I just we want to make fun shows and stuff. It's just not woke, and it'll be original, independent, slightly lower budget, but done well. I'll put it that way. All right, smash that like button, and let's get to these super chats. Also, don't forget, we got that really great Diamond Hands Gorilla shirts available. You can see in the chat and at timcast.com. Go to shop. So the first super chat, which for some reason YouTube always cuts the name off. I don't know why. They mentioned the AstraZeneca vaccine. I believe that's the one that's been put on frozen in Canada.
It's the one.
Yeah. Matthew Hammond says Cassandra is the best. Can she host the podcast Cults, Conspiracies, and Cassandra? What are you waiting for, Tim? Administrative support, so like production to like oversee the project. But yeah, how about Cults, Conspiracies with Cassandra?
I kind of like that. Yeah.
Triple C.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And thank you.
All right.
I'm very excited to do it.
Mark Hunt says, what's your thoughts on the Suez Canal situation? I love the memes. There was one post where someone said, every man on the planet has a solution to how to get the ship unstuck. It's like all of the men of the world standing around a pickle jar that needs to be unstuck, and they're telling you how to do it. And then the response was, and each and every one of their responses is correct.
Yes.
They got it unstuck, the ship, and then 10 minutes later got stuck again.
Oh, wow.
But I guess they got it back out.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's funny.
Okay, so that was costing, it was a ship ran aground in the Suez Canal, blockaded, and was costing like $60 million a minute or some exorbitant amount of lost transit.
Billion.
So there's a bunch of memes where it's like, you know, I think Luke ordered 9mm, and then it was like shipping to, it was an en route, and it's the guy like smiling, and then it says, last known location, Suez Canal, and he's like, all shocked. Yep. Well, it's not that it's in the canal, it's that nothing could get through the canal. All right, let's see. Cryptic says, Tim, how do you feel about the rising Wall Street silver movement? Some mints are now unable to deliver silver to unallocated accounts until months. Looks like the physical squeeze on silver is working. That'll be really interesting. I mean, I don't know enough about silver, how that's going to work. I do own silver. I mean, I think most people have some kind of silver. It'll be cool. I don't know. I don't know if it's good or bad. Don't know a lot about silver.
I should say that 20 million a minute. I don't know if that's what was being lost in the Suez Canal. Yeah, the Athenians.
What do you think about silver?
The Athenians mined it. That's what made Athens so great.
Silver?
Yeah, silver mine.
What'd they do with it?
They would melt it into coins primarily. I don't know what else, but they would just use slaves. People would like lease their slaves to the Athenian state to go down there and mine silver.
Interesting.
Robin Cosby says AstraZeneca COVID vaccine is the blood clot one that everyone is worried about. Well, there's alternatives, you know. Eric Allen says, thanks for clearing up Friday for people. It definitely helps, and I hope you guys collab again soon. Much love. Legit, it was our fault. I didn't communicate with Jeremy beforehand, and then he ended up going on Adam's show. And so then when I came up for pre-production, what people need to understand is for a lot of guests, when they come in here and I haven't talked to them before, there's always something we can just talk about. So you'll notice some shows are literally, like when we had Jody Shaw on, I think for like 40 minutes, she was just telling her story. We didn't need a lot of pre-production to be like, tell me your story and let's work our way through this. For Jeremy, we both do a very similar, you know, kind of commentary thing. And we had just done a show the night before. So we kind of exhausted a lot of the topics we could have talked about. And then he didn't realize we had an earlier call time because it's our fault. Someone on our end told him not to worry about it. And then I was like, dude, we don't have any stories. Like, I've not prepared anything. We haven't gone over anything. We haven't talked about anything. And a lot of stuff we were going to talk about, we talked about yesterday. I was like, I just don't know if I have it in me to like pull something together in the last few minutes. And so it was my fault. Nothing to do with Jeremy. He did everything he was supposed to be doing.
Jeremy, you are the man, dude. I hope you're watching right now. I love you, dude. And thanks for coming. That was really fun. And we should play games someday. I know it's a little obfuscative over the internet, but let's hang out sometime.
Yeah.
Come back, or I'll go over to your house.
Yeah, some people mentioned, like with James O'Keefe, he was super late. And I'll mention with James, straight up, when he called me before the show and said I'm going to be late, I was like, I can't do it, bro. I was like, look, we try to be on time for everybody, and if you can't make it, like I don't play favorites with people. I've had so many really amazing high profile people message me saying, just do a remote show, Tim, just for me. And I'm like, dude, I can't do it because I'm not going to do a special thing for every single person. James chartered a private plane, and so I was like,
Oh, okay.
I was like, all right, dude,
Okay,
you got it.
Yeah, man.
So, and that also too was very much, James says, don't worry, I've got a bunch of stuff to talk about. So when I get there, I was like, okay, I guess we'll try and, put something together. And then when he gets here, he's just going to talk to us. We ended up doing a full hour bonus show because there was so much James and I hadn't talked about. It's really, really hard. I think people need to understand too that there's a decent amount of pre-production. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's a decent amount where we warm up, we talk about ideas, we line up our stories. You'll notice we pull up a bunch of stories and read through them. It's because we did all the work loading them in the first place. So maybe not what people expected, but that's just the reality. And sometimes it's just hard to pull things together and we screw up. It's just a sad reality, I guess. Let's see. Coldy Locks Production says, what happened to the right to privacy or patient confidentiality from doctors, businesses, and government? Doesn't need to know my medical history, let alone what I do in my private life at home. That's actually a really, really important point. HIPAA laws, right? What if I just say, I don't have to prove it because it's my privacy? You know
We
what I
give
mean?
them an inch and they're going to take a mile.
Yeah,
That's my fear with all of it.
The Nazis would they would execute sick people. That was a big part of it. He wanted to get rid of like the not pure people. And a lot of those were like people that have mental problems or physical, problems or just illness in general.
I have a question. Was it with the Americans with Disabilities Act? Is that what it's called? So what if you go to Walmart and they're like, you have to have proof of vaccine, and you say, I have allergies, I can't get it. Can they say you're not allowed to come to this business because of a medical condition?
I wonder if they'll do exemption cards.
I've dealt with severe allergy before when I was growing up. It freaks me out. I was in the hospital like for a couple of days, I think.
Kill you.
Yeah, and it's no joke. That's why people carry EpiPens. And so when they announced, they're like, vaccine, don't take it. If you have food allergies, you got to wait. I'm like, you got it. Because I've been through that. I do not want to go through that again. So what am I supposed to do? If they launch these passports, look, I think vaccines are rad, but
back off.
I was advised against, and it's not even any particular vaccine. I was reading about it, and they said for most new vaccines, there's a wait period for people with food allergies because there's the possibility of anaphylactic reaction. And then we saw those nurses who had it. So I'm just like, dude. Apparently those nurses were like, no, it's okay, I'm fine. I was treated. I'm like, yeah, but like going to the ER and like getting the epinephrine, like I'm not all about that, man. Sorry. Like if people, I want to get it. Like I got no beef. I'm stoked. Look, I know a lot of people are saying they're worried about it being rushed, but I'm like, Trump's the one who rushed this through. I don't
trust Trump with everything either. He
I
didn't
get
even
it.
pardon Assange.
That's true,
like,
especially.
I don't know. Trump is wonderful. He's great and all, but just because he pushed it doesn't mean that it's great. I'm sorry. I can't get on board. I'm gonna get us in trouble if I keep talking.
I just think that I think they didn't want to give him a success. You know what I mean? I think FDA approval is extremely important. A lot of these vaccines have been around for a really, really long time, so we know the adverse effects. So I really just, I don't know. I just think we need FDA approval.
I think that people who are very high risk should take it. I just think that the risk for people who are not high risk is too questionable.
And I don't want a food allergy risk.
The FDA is not even the end all. It's just an government organization. Like they say aspartame's totally fine because they've done one study on rats with it that caused cancer or seemed like it was carcinogenic. But because they never did other studies on aspartame, they say there aren't enough studies. to say that it's
are
carcinogenic.
you 100% sure about all of those facts?
Last I've studied that, last I've studied, they did one
worry.
aspartame study,
I got
carcinogen
you.
study on rats, and then it showed that there was a likelihood that it was carcinogenic, and then they stopped doing the studies, and now they say there aren't enough studies to prove it, so there's not enough evidence.
I think cultural enforcement, social enforcement is always the most important thing. You know that people don't drink that stuff as much anymore? Like soda, regular old soda. People don't like drinking that anymore. Water consumption's going up.
So great.
We got the. You ever see Hydro Homies on Reddit? Mm-hmm. There's a viral Reddit group where it's just people like got to drink more water, and they post pictures of bottled water, and that's like memes about drinking more water. I was reading that like soda consumption is way down. Wow. I know all my friends when we go out to eat, we usually just get like water or alcohol if you get alcohol. But when it comes to like fast food restaurants, most people that go to fast food restaurants don't get large sodas anymore.
Does Nestle
They'll get like unsweet tea or something?
Who owns Coca-Cola? Nestle own Coca-Cola?
No, I think Coca-Cola owns Coca-Cola.
I wonder if they're investing in water, like doing bottled water. There's Avion is like
Oh,
Coca-Cola.
of course they are. Absolutely.
So they're like, let's get away from soda. Let's buy the water mines, and then we'll start selling water instead, which has its double-edged sword, I guess.
All right, let's read this from Brent Saigan. He says, "Hey, Tim, your bullying of my brother Grant to make an account on your website is yet to work. But could you shout out my friend Robert? He listens to some of your stuff, and he's leaving for the Navy today." Oh, wow. Sounds rad. Cool, man. Well, have fun. Absolutely. And thanks for listening to the show. And your brother Grant.
Darn it, Grant.
He's letting us down. I think if Grant doesn't sign up, I might just have to pack it in because, to be honest, I was just trying to get his respect the whole time.
I'm disappointed.
Grant.
What's up, dude?
If I can't inspire you, then maybe I just take the beanie off. And
You can
go
inspire
downstairs.
Tim. You can do it.
Oh, come on, Grant. You can join. Become a member at timcast.com. Joe Spinella says the Privileges and Immunities Clause, U.S. Constitution, Article 4, Section 2, Clause 1, also known as the Comity Clause, prevents a state from treating citizens of other states in a discriminatory manner. So that means New York can't really do what they're doing with this vaccine passport, huh? That's weird. I don't know.
I'll look that up.
It's going to require a Supreme Court lawsuit.
I feel like the government's doing a whole lot of things that they shouldn't be able to do, so I don't even know anymore.
Urgency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They often, and yep.
I mean, we're still dealing with the Patriot Act and stuff. I mean, we're going to be dealing with these COVID emergency things for a long time, I think.
So Nishra produces some of my music, and many people probably know her from Adam's show, which I remember she asked a few months ago. She was like, we're talking about guns, and she's from Sweden. She goes, wait a minute, I'm confused. The Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And we all go, uh-huh. But they're infringing, and we all start laughing like, yes.
She's so cool.
She mentioned this to me before. She was like, just earlier today, she was like, I don't understand how your Constitution literally says you can't do it, but like everywhere does it. And I'm like, you're asking me, dude. That's my thing. It's like, I actually think we should be responsible and have a conversation about gun control. But I think the Constitution says otherwise. And if people want to change that, doesn't matter what my opinion is or anyone else's, there it is. Constitution says it, then you got to bring all the states together and change it. And that's the reality of how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, it's free everywhere, and then state by state, they can kind of dictate. But then city by city, can they do it also? Can they be like, in this city, it's open carry, even if the state says no?
Apparently, there's a bunch of rulings already saying everything they do is illegal anyway. But who wants to be the person to get standing to sue after they get arrested or charged?
I think the NRA or someone like that.
The NRA.
Are they like in the pocket of somebody?
The NRA is just like a, I don't know.
That's kind of their.
I just don't. What do they do?
Isn't their purpose to uphold gun rights?
They don't.
Yeah.
But that's
Their
supposed
purpose
to be
is to collect donations. Gun owners is really good, though, as an alternative to NRA. I really like them. They actually stood up for the controversial person in Kenosha.
I want some gun rights organizations to go to the inner city youth in Chicago who are arrested on gun possession charges and advocate for their right to keep and bear arms.
That's pretty cool.
I'm actually looking right now. West Virginia just passed something pretty cool. I don't want to misstate it. And I'm sorry that I keep talking about
Well, what do you think it is? You are legally obligated to carry a gun?
No, there's something they're gonna not enforce federal laws.
Oh, interesting.
About guns, but I don't want to misstate it.
Yeah,
so
well, there's always the
look.
ATF, so.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Karis says, hey, Tim, I work in healthcare. I install patient monitoring hardware and software. I work with nurses, doctors, and biomed personnel. Sometimes a mask is our only armor in these hospitals, like that rare charm in an RPG.
Yes.
Yeah, man. People don't realize about this people don't realize this about hospitals, but old people die from hospitals.
Yes.
No joke. They'll get sick, or they'll have to go to the hospital for a broken bone, and then there's just illness all over that hospital. People are sick, and so they can contract the stuff. What, like, MRSA and stuff and staph.
Yes.
All right, let's see.
Okay, I
Land-
found it.
What is
West Virginia House passes bill to ban enforcement of federal gun control past, present, and future.
Wow.
Wow.
So, I mean, it'll still have to go to justice and stuff, but
Right.
obviously.
And you still got to deal with the ATF.
Yeah.
So you got the federal government.
But we've had a lot of counties in West Virginia becoming sanctuary counties too.
Yeah.
And they're saying that they won't work with ATF, they won't work with FBI or whatever. So
Very cool.
yeah, it's
But that means, so it'll be interesting to see what happens if someone in West Virginia decides to get a full auto weapon without going through the NFA, the tax and all that stuff, and the ATF.
we'll see. They're not going to have help from local law enforcement if things go as they look like they're going to.
But then this could lead to a lawsuit that goes to the Supreme Court.
yeah,
All gun control is racist, and I'm not even exaggerating.
Yes, true.
Ask Maj Toure and
Yes.
Black Guns Matter about it, because they're not wrong. All right. Landoon says, "Hey Tim and crew, I'm a soldier in the U.S. Army. Our unit has had loose rules regarding the wearing of the mask since the lockdown began, but other units are very strict about the mask. It all depends on who your leaders are." Interesting.
Yeah.
Darth Typhon says, "Tim, you guys should have Magnus Vidya on the show. It would make for a great conversation regarding the culture war between the establishment and bottom unity groups such as Boogs, anti-fascists, and right-wing militias. Keep up the great work." Thank you very much. Stormskip says, "Tim, can you talk about how Democrat policies fit together? Lockdowns cause people to lose jobs so they can't afford the reintroduced individual mandate of ACA. Soon they need to go on government health care to get a vaccine passport." That's really interesting. Did they reintroduce the individual mandate?
I'm not
Or
sure.
the
Haven't heard that.
involuntary mandate?
Yeah.
Ben Walker says, "Thanks for talking seriously about vaccine risks. I'm 100% pro-vax, but side effects can be serious. Check out Pandemics, GSK swine flu vaccine that gave over 10 people narcolepsy. I have narcolepsy. It's no joke. Pro-vax,
Okay.
but people should be aware of potential risks." I think that's, in an honest society, we'd be saying, dude, vaccines are amazing.
They're amazing.
I had a conversation with some conspiracy person a while ago, and I said, if you've got, a million people who might die from something, so you introduce a vaccine that's going to save 950,000, and then 50,000 people will get some serious side effect from the vaccine, some resulting in death. But you save 950,000 people. Like, the problem I think a lot of people don't realize is that if there is a system in place that causes some adverse effect, they focus on that as the worst possible thing when it's possible the COVID could have been way worse. So one of the challenges with talking about lockdowns and masks and all this is that we have no metric by which to judge a lot of these policies because we all did it. You can look at Sweden, you can look at the numbers in Texas, and we start to get a clear picture of, okay, maybe the lockdowns were a bad idea. In the beginning, though, we just didn't know. There was nothing to compare it to. So we were like, let's try and do the right thing. And then when people were looking at numbers, we still didn't know. Maybe it would have been worse if we didn't. We don't know. Now it's a year plus on. Now we're starting to get a better picture. Texas, the numbers going down. In Florida, they're well below average because it turns out COVID actually transmits easier indoors. I guess that's what Fauci was saying. And now we're kind of changing that policy for some reason. Biden wants to keep going. I think it's because safety is easier, just to absolve themselves of responsibility.
Of course, but if you give up freedom for safety, you lose both and deserve neither, according to one of the great founding fathers.
All right, Steve Smithy says, "Hey Tim, love the show. Are you excited for the new Hearthstone expansion? What class are you looking forward to playing the most? Also, if you like card games, you should check out this upcoming game called The Bazaar." That's super. I used to be way more into Hearthstone. I don't care too much or track the expansions or anything like that. But I do play it a lot. I typically just play the tavern brawls and the solo because, it's more fun. It's just more fun.
Great YouTuber called Trump that does
Yeah.
Hearthstone vids.
Twitch
I
streamer
watch
as
a
well.
lot of Trump. Mage.
Mage is the best.
I like Warlock because of the draw.
Yeah, but
it's slow.
it's just so OP. The mage getting that 1
Mage.
point of damage every turn
Dude,
to
Mage
just
is
spot removal. You know what I mean?
Mage is insane. Have you
Priest
played
is fun,
Hearthstone?
No,
It's
I
Blizzard's card game. It's awesome. It's like a Warcraft card game.
haven't. Nice.
All right, so Bass says, DeSantis is already planning an executive order banning vaccine passports in Florida. I need to leave New Jersey. Yes, sir. You need to leave New Jersey. We left quite a while. We left a little while ago, only several months at this point. It's been just about half a year or so, not quite. And yes, this is what Luke went to Florida. Luke went to Florida because of DeSantis, I'm assuming. DeSantis is like, we're going to protect people from censorship. We're going to allow people to be open and live normally. And Luke was like, you can buy guns. You can go to the beach. You can go to the restaurants and eat food like normal. Censorship. DeSantis is doing a good job.
I'm like, I want to love DeSantis so bad, but he's actually not really great on censorship. He was very, I think he actually signed a bill in Israel that was
in Israel?
Yeah, about BDS.
Oh.
And as much as I hate the left and they make me crazy, I think that censoring BDS.
What is BDS?
Boycott,
divest, and sanction.
Yeah, it's
Against the Israeli
Against
state?
Israel.
yeah.
And so a lot of people are advocating for it, and then a lot of groups have tried to like ban it in some capacity. Like, didn't Congress try to ban it or something?
Yeah, well, they try to make sure that agencies who support it don't get government money, I believe. I could be wrong. I'm not super well versed on it, but I really oppose any like government mandates on who you can boycott or not. And I think that that's a very strange and dangerous form of censorship. So I don't like it.
It's really simple. I oppose blocking contracts with companies that engage in any capacity in BDS because they're calling for boycotting, divesting, or sanctioning Israel. I don't agree with BDS, but they're expressing their political views and their opinions. I do agree with Donald Trump's executive order banning government contracts with companies that engage in critical race theory, because the critical race theory trainings are a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, I believe Title VII. There's a big difference. BDS is, here's my opinion and here's what I think we should do, and so we're going to hold this ourselves to this. And the other companies are like, we're engaging in illegal practices.
Also, it's a foreign nation. Like, you're boycotting a foreign nation. It's not like you're doing something that has any effect on American companies, or I don't know. It's weird to me to legislate that Americans can't speak out against another nation.
Very strange.
Right? And I mean, I know the right, a lot of the right really supports it, but like for me, that is a thing. Every time that I'm like, yeah, DeSantis, you're killing it, you're doing great, I think about that and I'm just like, that's real. It nags at me. It's like,
yep. You got to be careful for tribalism.
Yeah.
Because they might just be doing things that are popular with the base.
Yeah.
All right. Patrick says, as a proud mountaineer, I've been very happy with how my state has handled COVID, the election, and the bills being put through the legislature right now.
I do what it takes.
Me too. They're so good. I've been watching it all day. My whole feed is cheering for various things that West Virginia passed.
The Dallas Deadeye says, Tim is like, don't believe fake news media, but bet your life on medical media because they don't lie. Foolish. You see, that is just a gross mischaracterization of my opinions. Here's what I actually think. A good portion of VC-funded digital media outlets is woke rage bait garbage. This stuff has begun infecting a bunch of major corporate news outlets like CNN and the New York Times. Many of these outlets do report very fine news, but I have to sift through it to try and figure out what's garbled nonsense and what's actually backed up. And even I can't do that all the time. So I actually don't say, I'll definitely say question a lot of the stories from the media and fact check them. But I use CNN and the New York Times for various stories, and I use them on purpose because I'm not saying everything they do is bad. I'm saying they have the corrupt components within them. As for the medical media, let me tell you this. Doctors used to tell you to smoke. They're not always right, and there are risks involved in any of these things. But I'll put it this way, man. I've got tons of vaccines. I understand this is rushed. I understand people are taking serious issue with it. I understand Canada has just suspended the AstraZeneca vaccine. European countries did something similar. There are real conversations happening around whether or not there are going to be serious risks with long-term effects. My point is that I think you said it best. The older people who are at risk should get it. Younger people probably don't need it. And I'll put it this way. When it comes to vaccines, I go to the doctor, and the doctor says frozoldazaban and nasoprene or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I have no idea what that is. I'll Google it and be like, I don't know. What am I supposed to do? Patch me up, doc, and send me on my way. Talk to your doctor. And I got to be honest. You should be trusting your doctor more than you trust me or anybody else. Your doctor, who you talk to, is going to know about your health more than Dr. Fauci or Trump or me or Joe Biden or anybody. And that's all that really matters, man.
I kind of take a view of like skepticism with any kind of media, but also not obtrusivism. Like, don't just reject it at face value just because it comes from the media or the pharmaceutical industry, including these, like, I was just looking up some aspartame studies. There was one about rats in 2006.
You looked it up?
Yeah, that caused cancer. They said there were problems
If
with
the
the
job
study.
is
They say
wrong,
they've done
I
more studies on
change
it,
the
never really
term.
found anything. You know,
That's
that's
so
how I
wrong.
live. I'm skeptical. I got to do my own research, really, and read each study piece by piece.
Yeah. Myself says, Tim, I had a dream that you hosted an event at your compound and we went turkey hunting on your property. You see a lot of turkeys out there? Been practicing your calls? We have a lot of turkeys. The other day we had a group of turkeys just walking through the parking lot and they're just doing turkey stuff. They're chilling.
Dude.
We're not going to kill them though.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was asked by the guys at the gun shop, they were like, you got a lot of turkeys? I was like, oh, one day we probably have like 20 or 30. And they were like, come on. And I'm like, no. We're like,
Look, I can't do
you
everything.
know, we're not going to kill
It made me think about, Andreas was telling me in the sauna the other night. We have a sauna, by the way, and it's amazing. Get in the sauna if you can. That if you play bat sounds, did he tell you this?
No.
I was like, how do we get rid of the mosquitoes? He's like, you play bat sounds.
what?
Mosquitoes,
That's true.
they know that sound. He said he went into a room in South America that was like infested with like thousands of mosquitoes. Like, it was disgusting. And they played bat sounds on their phone and they all left. All the mosquitoes left the room.
Because the bats eat them.
Yeah.
That's very smart.
Smorgasbord.
So you
We
just
have
blast
so
it
many
out in the
bats
backyard.
out there.
We got chickens. Sad news though, I tweeted about it. We did lose 2 of the
Death
chickens,
is
and
inevitable.
the sad truth is that they were just weak. You know, we talked to we went to a local farm.
Aw.
We got 8 chickens, and they were all fairly young. There, I think they were like 5 weeks old, and very quickly 2 of them started getting sick and displaying signs of parasites. One of them just dropped dead, and it was like rather abrupt. We knew it was sick, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I Googled it, and then within like 16 hours of realizing it was sick, it just collapsed. I went out one morning and it was just standing there all poofed up and chilling. Came back an hour later and it was collapsed and it was struggling to breathe, and then within 20 minutes gone. The next one was really sad. It was a really nice little chicken and it was active. We brought it to the vet. The vet said, looks like a parasite, we're gonna give it some medicine. We did. And then we started on medicine for the first day, and then all of a sudden it started improving. She started drinking water, started eating food and peeping, and I was like, this is fantastic. Next morning, dead. Just,
Wow.
yeah, just gone. Another of our chickens started poofing up, stopped, he started getting lethargic, and I was like, oh man, because they're spreading this parasite. So I gave it the medicine at the first sign. Later in the day, chicken was running around eating again.
Good.
Next day, gave it medicine. Seems to be totally fine now, but
Keep
it
up
is
with
smaller.
the medicine,
Yeah.
because there might be still trace parasites.
Yep.
They basically poop in their own food and then pick
Yep.
at it.
Smart.
There's such nasty little
Filthy, filthy little
Dude,
dinosaurs.
watching these little things walk up to their water, drink, and then turn around and just lift their wings and just dump right in their water. I'm like, what are you doing? I gotta clean it out.
Wow,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
they're still
they're-
alive.
Yeah.
But they've
The
learned.
species has.
We got stink bugs
persistent.
here like crazy. Like
Oh, yeah?
nobody's business. Chickens love.
They'll eat right out of your hands too, and it doesn't hurt. They'll peck at your fingers, doesn't hurt.
But
They
you
like
give
it.
them a stink bug and they all start chasing each other,
Yeah.
fighting over it.
Freaking out.
Yeah, I want to
Because,
do
like-
a chicken race where like one of them has a stink bug and you just have like a long corridor that they run, and the other ones will chase them.
They're great. They're getting
Love it.
big real fast. I'm excited. Yeah, right now they're in Chicken College in the Chicken City
Oh,
Mhm,
yeah,
the
yeah.
dorm.
because they all hang out together and like huddle together.
No Marxism though.
And then there's no Marxism. That's very capitalistic. And then once they're older, there's houses. They'll have to move into their own homes.
Oh,
and
I
everything.
love the
No
big one.
critical chicken theory.
That's
No
right.
critical chicken theory. Yeah.
We're watching though to see if it displays naturally.
Yeah, it won't.
Clayton Pajunas says, hey guys, I just wanted to say thanks and share some tendies. Hopefully my Diamond Hands Gorilla shirt comes soon.
Oh.
P.S. Ian's killing it today. Love y'all.
Oh,
hey, there you go.
dog. I'm excited for you to get your shirt.
That's good.
Yeah, we got them. They're downstairs. We need to open them.
Oh,
The new ones.
nice. I'll wear one tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, the Diamond Hands Gorilla. So most of you know we have the I Am a Gorilla shirt. It's just a meme about Alex Jones when he kept saying he was a gorilla. So we made a gorilla saying I'm a gorilla. Means nothing else, really. But then because there was the meme from the Wall Street Bets about apes strong together, the Planet of the Apes thing, and they used the gorilla emoji, I was like, let's give our gorilla a suit and hold stacks of cash with a cigar and sunglasses. So it's the Diamond Hands Gorilla. See, he's got all this cash because he has diamond hands and he held for as long as possible, and then he sold out at the top. Or I guess diamond hands means you never sell.
Wow.
I don't know.
I haven't sold. I still have a bunch of
I love it.
AMEs.
If it were me, I'd keep it forever. Why not?
I mean,
Earn the
AMC.
T-shirt.
Arceon says, to both Ian and Tim, you guys need to do more research on the Council of Nicaea. If you know anything about the history of Catholicism, you would know that Gnostic Bibles were made to subvert Christianity. Narcissism came hundreds of years after Christ. Constantine protected the Bible's legitimacy. Interesting.
I think the Palace of Knossos was a Cretan, a Minoan capital. It was Knossis, not Gnostis. Gnosis. I don't know if they were related. Seemed like a learning place. But Seamus will be here eventually, and he is a master of Catholicism.
Yeah, he knows a lot.
We could definitely talk about that.
That'd be fun. Steven Pizowski says, I live in Richmond, VA. Cassandra is right. Broad Street, which was the best it's been in 50 years, is still mostly boarded up from the riots. I work in government. Small business applications are down 90%.
I was right where the riots were, and in the Stonewall Jackson statue, we drove past that and stuff, and I was just like, it's not the Richmond that you think of anymore. It was very odd. And yeah, you could see all the riot stuff left over. It was horrible.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Dixon says, Ian is soy Moses, and I'm here just to watch him take red pills.
I will feed you the golden calf. In fact, you can eat gold, monatomic or colloidal gold suspended in water if you go online and look for it.
Yeah,
And it's really good for you. It coats the neurons in your brain, causes them to superconduct. If you're stretching and your muscle's going to rip, it'll fill in the rip and you can keep stretching.
Don't take medical advice
This
from
is not
Ian.
medical advice. It's a supplement. It's like a food. But apparently gold used to be in the ground, and we would get trace, like you want iron in your body. You want like trace
vitamin
metals.
B from dirt too.
And we mine so much of it out that we're not getting enough gold in our diets. So you supplement.
Interesting.
That Moses would have been into that.
All right, Doctor says, a man who is truthful to himself, has no secrets and tells no lies, has nothing to fear but himself. Also, change starts from within and flows outwards. Thank you to all for being self-actualized. You're helping others find their way in voice. Much love. Appreciate it.
Nice, thank you.
Hayden says, the terrifying cult isn't actually Marxist. It's traditionalists with a capital T. Look into Professor Benjamin Teitelbaum's work on the subject. Greenwald is a fan. This was the Viking aim of Ragnarok, the utopian goal of the Germans in the 1930s and others. Yeah, the woke left are not progressives in the actual literal definition. They're very much reactionaries in the literal definition. So reactionaries were those who wanted to maintain the status quo in the French Revolution, simplifying for sure. And they'll call themselves progressives today because they know it's the only way to convince people. Because like, oh, the progressives are always right. In reality, the things they're implementing are things from a long time ago that we defeated. They're trying to rewind the clock on freedom of speech. They're trying to rewind the clock on racial segregation, and they're getting it. These people are outright reactionaries who are trying to revert the system back to the way it used to be because they don't like the world we're in now.
That's like doublespeak at its finest, calling it progressivism.
That's what they do. Wow. Yeah. The anti-fascists, and they go around beating people.
Anti-racist.
The worst part that I've been thinking about a lot is that there's white moms that are pushing all this white men bad stuff online and in the ballot box.
This should be a
and
nice
it's just
break
like what kind of culture and society
go.
has moms that are doing these things that are against their own children's self-interest or their own children's interest.
Did you see that Emily Ratajkowski article for Vogue?
No.
Where she's like, I had a friend who was pregnant and she would look at her sleeping husband with disgust, saying there was nothing worse than a peacefully sleeping white man in patriarchy or something.
Oh my God.
And she was shocked that she was bringing another white man into the world.
She cried.
Yeah, she cried. And then she later finally learned that she could love her husband again. That is psychopathy.
I'm trying to like put myself in the position of a kid that would have had to hear that. It would have messed me up so bad if I thought I was just inherently a problem.
But that's
society.
all that the kids are hearing right now. That's what they're hearing with critical race theory. That's what they're hearing with these stupid Sesame Street programs and all this propaganda that's flooding all the time. I mean, you're having white supremacy. They're talking about how like mass shootings are white supremacy when it's mostly not white people, or that they're the ones attacking Asians. Mostly not white people.
Mass shootings are mostly white people.
No.
I looked it up.
No. Look up there's a website that has the actual photos of every single one from 2020. The thing, you're probably not counting gang shootings.
I just looked up the hard numbers for shootings of 4 people or more, and it's like 66% white and like 22% black. And
then they're not counting gang shootings.
Yeah.
There's some websites that don't count them.
I'll have to look into it. All right, Shameless Girlfriend says, first super chat. Absolutely love the members only Jack Murphy content. Cross Smack Openness is the most OG video on the tube. Hoping for a shout out to Steve Cronin, early victim of YouTube censorship and true libertarian.
Cross Smack Openness was my first YouTube video. It's on my Cross Mac channel,
Oh.
which was my old email address.
cool.
And thank you for that. It's real, man.
Freedom Thoughts says, Tim, you've been talking a lot about how the far left likes guns. That's definitely true, but for how long? I think once they gain power, they'd strip them. On another note, you should make some Timcast logo stickers for cars. Perhaps, and you're probably right, 100%. Once they gain power, it depends. The actual libertarian left, pro-gun, will always be pro-gun, and want to be hippies on a farm with their guns and say, leave us alone, we share in the fruits of our labor, and that's how it works. There's like a famous commune, has 100 people, and they mind their own business. That doesn't scale up. You can't make a 330 million government based on left libertarianism. Sorry, it doesn't make sense. Right libertarianism does, because capitalism is a structure by which people can associate and form, an economy. And then you have the authoritarian left, which is the natural progression of the libertarian left when they realize they can't actually scale up their world. So then they are pro-gun. And then once they realize the only way to maintain their system at scale is to oppress people, then they do. There you go. All right. The Breeze says, I don't know, the Breeze job application. Remember when you said you would read people's application if they sent you $50? No, that was a joke.
Wow.
Here's $100, so read it twice. Love you guys. Well, we will just search the Gmail for the Breeze. We'll see what we can find.
Love.
All right, let's see. We got a couple more here. EY says, what is it? Sun Say. I don't know what that is.
Sun
Sorry.
Ce is Sun Jian's son. He was a Chinese warlord from the Wu province, southeast China.
Sun Say.
He ran the
He's not speaking Chinese or whatever. He's saying the Sun Say, and then there's like, I don't
I thought
understand.
it was
And
SUNCE.
stay gone.
Nope, different Sun Ce. Sun Ce.
Julie Simone says, thanks for bringing Cassandra back. I get her passion for West Virginia. I recently relocated from CA to Florida and feel the same. The level of personal respect for people in Florida is so refreshing after 7 years in California. Awake, not woke. Hi, Ian.
Hi.
There you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations on getting out of there. I lived in California for a decade, and I
Yeah, me too.
would never want to go back.
Goosey Goose says, idea for merch. Don't tread on me, but with baby chickens instead of snake. Also, hello, Cassandra. Keep it the good fight. Your friend Goose.
That'd be great. Little chicks.
So
cute.
Like, don't tread on me, one of them says.
I think it should be a goose, like, attacking somebody.
Chicks
That'd be
armed with
awesome.
Yeah,
AR-15s.
because, like, gooses are nuts.
Geese?
When I
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
crazy.
geese.
Yeah.
Gooses.
Mooses.
When I was, I can't remember. I can't remember the name of the park in California.
Echo Park.
No. The one that's off of Wilshire, close to.
East over there, yeah.
Yeah, it's east.
It's
a big
named
park.
after a soldier, right?
Is it MacArthur?
Grant Park.
No.
Oh, it is MacArthur. Yeah, I think
Is it
MacArthur
MacArthur
Park. Yeah.
There's a bunch of crazy geese, and they are massive, and they harass you. They go, and they chase after you, and you're like, get out of here, and they'll peck at you and like, give me food. They're
They
big,
charge
too.
you, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of birds, except for chickens. I can deal
Terrified
with
of
chickens.
birds.
We probably
I
killed
am.
off all the geese that could fly because those things are nasty. If they could fly at you.
They're all food.
I can't.
All right, we'll just do a couple
chickens.
more here.
Geese are the worst.
Sonny James says, I literally watched a Reuters article edited like 3 times. The unvaccinated fear exclusion. They think they edited the title. I swear the original I watched says those on the green passport are told what they can and cannot do. I saved it before RT Reuters edited. You can go to archive.is and drop a link, and it'll clone the website, archiving it for basically ever. And that's one thing you can do if you're trying to track these changes. Z McKnight says, I am also from Southside Richmond. The city isn't growing, and that's why I left. The leadership isn't good in the River City. That's a bummer, man, when these cities are falling apart because, you get bad leadership, because people, many people aren't paying attention. Bad leadership comes in, destroys the city. Good people leave, and the city keeps falling in a downward spiral. It's a brain drain.
I love studying history for that reason. Like, civilizations are so transient. There's never been one that's lasted more than, I don't know, a couple thousand years that we know of.
Well, they will break apart and then reform under similar names or the same groups, and it's like
I'll put myself in the mind of an Athenian looking at the beautiful towers and structures and thinking this is the greatest that's ever come, and it will never end because it's so great. And then it would just get wrecked by by external military, by a plague, by a earthquake. Like none of this is forever.
All right, last super chat. The most important. Path of Resilience says geese are essentially cobra chickens.
Yes.
And there it is. My friends, thank you all so much for hanging out. Make sure you smash that like button because it really does help. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, leave us a good review because that especially helps us out. You can follow me on social media at Timcast. And my other YouTube channels are youtube.com/Timcast and youtube.com/TimcastNews. This show is live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So we will be back tomorrow. Make sure you come and hang out. And again, share the show if you like it. Cassandra, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, I'm on Parler at Cassandra. I'm on Telegram, Gab, Twitter, you name it. If you want to come yell at me or be angry or
At Cassandra Rules or Cass Rules?
At Cassandra Rules on Twitter and on Gab, I believe. And on Parler, it's just Cassandra. But yeah, come say hi.
Do you have a video channel?
No.
Where you make videos? I'd love to watch that.
Well, we're gonna do this.
Very
this
inspiring.
this
Yeah.
cults and conspiracies with Cassandra.
I like it. Hey guys, thank you for everything. I'm Ian Crossland, and you can follow me iancrossland.net and bounce around all my social networks from there.
Right, and I am Sour Patch Lids on Twitter and Real Sour Patch Lids on Instagram, where I do my little nightly show after, where I talk about what we talked about on the show.
We are going to have a very special members-only exclusive coming up at timcast.com in just about an hour. So make sure you go there, become a member if you would like to watch it. But we got a massive library that we've been accumulating of all these different people. So become a member, support the show.